Oh my God. Good. All right. How are you? Good. Yeah. He did. He stole it. Yeah, fire shot. Probably fire something. They both very nice. And not that expensive. Oh, I know. It was about $75. $90 a month. Now they wind up getting something.
Call the public meeting to order Wednesday, August 27th, 2025.
Councilman Haddock. Councilman Brown.
Present.
Councilman Dennis.
Present.
Councilwoman Faison.
Present.
Councilman Ogle.
Present.
Mayor Pelot.
Present. At this time, if you would, silence your phones. Stand for the Pledge of Allegiance by Councilman Bounds.
United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
This time we have a public comment period. Members of the audience have 3 minutes to make a statement or express a concern to the council. Is anyone here to speak to the council? Come forward. State your name and address, please.
I apologize, I hadn't looked at the, give me one. So you may be addressing it on the agenda, Gene, I'm sorry. No, okay, so my name is John Brewster, 105 Rampart Street, and I guess just a statement and a question, but the statement is I'm anxious to hear about the wage study and here to certainly support the maintenance towns workers and the police in particular. So anyway, anxious to hear about that. But my question is on the public boat launch at the end of the Lake Road, what are the plans on that? And I know that there was I guess it was destroyed when a particular company, I won't name names right now, but a particular company was working on that seawall, that wave break. Mm-hmm. They actually went on the boat launch and broke it and did I would say, less than adequate repair from what I understand, from what I'm hearing. So I guess my question is, what are we doing about the boat launch that has half of it out of service?
We have someone looking at it to try to give us some ideas to repair it.
Okay. Am I misunderstanding? Do I have bad information about it was broken when someone was working down there to do that? And are we going to go after the insurance to repair it, or is that going to be on taxpayer dollars?
No, that's the taxpayer dollars to repair it. It was whether it was broken before or after is questionable and always was. We weren't using that side as much as we were the other side prior to the repairs, and there was no way to establish a fault. We tried to repair it by patching it, and the patch didn't stay on. We hopefully can do a better job of doing with the launch itself once we know what to do.
Okay, so we didn't do an inspection or anything to determine fault, or didn't do any kind of investigation? Because the insurance company should have paid for that, in my opinion.
Yeah, nothing. We didn't do any work to the launch itself in the past, and so there was never an inspection before and after it after it was done, how much was done by the company working on the walkway, it couldn't be determined.
Okay, well, because I had heard firsthand from one of my cousins that uses it a lot, said that it was damaged by the company that was working on it. But that's hearsay, Gene.
That's certainly hearsay.
So-
Because nobody could identify that to be a fact.
Okay, so the only thing I would ask is that, I brought up before that it's not at the proper slope elevation, so if we're gonna spend the money, let's fix the slope at the proper angle so you don't have to back your complete truck into the water to get your boat off, so,
We'll certainly look at that.
all right, thank you.
Anyone else here to speak?
Beth Brewster, 509 Morgan. I'm just want to clarify something or ask y'all. My son is moving into a house right across the street from Madisonville Junior High. And he works the hours of like 2 in the morning until 2 in the afternoon, which is, prime time. What are the rules like to get to your house when school traffic, when they're sitting there waiting for the traffic? I know I've tried to go a couple times and the cops stopped me and kind of
They're supposed to
shook
have
me
a
out a little
tag.
bit.
I think they're supposed to have a tag, am I right?
Right.
Aren't they supposed to have a tag?
Is there a tag? That's what I'm
For
asking.
like the residents in the marina and anybody that lives back, of course, we only have several houses, so we know everybody that lives back.
Oh, good, so we can get a tag?
Absolutely.
All right, good.
I would just, I'm sorry, but I would probably just suggest that he introduce himself to the officers, just so they recognize him, say, hey, this is what I drive, I have a tag, but just so you know who I am.
Can't miss his truck, it's
The only
loud.
issue we may have with Bruce is that at certain points, with buses and everything.
Yeah.
For 5 minutes, whatever, has been carried blocking. If that's getting an ambulance for fire or something, we can get in there, but it's right at the intersection of Cedar every day.
Okay.
Where they put them, and basically what they're waiting on is all the kids to come out of the school. They usually have them all out of town.
Okay.
But sometimes they do have to wait, and they get them out there within 5, 6, 7 minutes, and that's where it starts the traffic.
Okay, good, thank you.
We don't want to keep them going.
I was about to say, once the traffic is moving, once it starts moving, it's really not a long wait. Like, you get in and out pretty quick. I do the car line in the mornings there, so tell them, yeah.
Did he have to wait the car line?
You shouldn't have to, but once it's moving, I mean, at that point you may as well, but, yeah.
I'm usually the one standing in the middle of the street, so.
Okay.
It's difficult, but no.
Is anyone else here to speak to the council? Please come up.
Stacy Domain, 103 Renee Street. We had a little problem here tonight. I had to call Barney to get a ride to the meeting because I could not back my truck out of the driveway. My front gate, I could fit through when I opened it, but I couldn't fully open the gate. The parking on the bayou side of Renee Street needs to stop. Nothing can get through that needs to get through. No fire truck, no ambulance. You have people, I have survived cancer surgery. I have 2 stents in my heart. If I needed an ambulance, it's not going to fit, even to get to my house. And farther down the street would be impossible. The only time when school opened, you had 2-way traffic on Renee Street is because I'm standing on the sidewalk directing traffic. I had to call the police station twice because we had so much interaction head to head that we,
Is somebody blocking your driveway?
You can't back out. They blocked Jeannie's driveway. They blocked Bert Lee's driveway. My block went not.
Well, they should have been towed. But was somebody blocking some?
The school was having, they normally notify us, Mayor, I'm down there having some meet and greet tonight. The Stacy's actual driveway is not blocked. Where her truck is not, but everything else is, the street part is. But in order for her to get out of her driveway, it's basically the
It's wasted.
But for whatever reason, the school did not notify us, I'll give this morning in the morning, because usually, normally they notify us when they have a meet and greet of a large signing up for sports or whatever, but it's,
If somebody blocks your driveway, please call the police. They should be ticketed and/or towed.
The actual driveway was open, I've had it blocked before. But the thing is, I have to back out. If I have no room to back out, I'm basically blocked in. And when you park by the tree, which shouldn't be, there should be no parking whatsoever on the bayou side of Renee Street. It is an endangerment, and if something happens, the town is looking at a $1 million lawsuit, plain English. Because I'm a cancer patient, I have 2 stents. My neighbor is a cancer patient, all right? Other people down the street have different medical problems. And if you can't get through, and we've already had, thank God it was during the summer a couple of years back, Hidden Harbor had a boat catch on fire that had a gasoline engine, and it burned the ropes and drifted over to the shipyard area. If not, it could have exploded everything in the marina.
Stacy, I understand, and you're right. Your request last month that you made about no parking there went to the police department, and we haven't discussed it. I mean, when they make a decision, they're going to bring that decision to us. I'm sure they're considering that right now. So it is being looked into.
Oh, I know it is, but we went through this last year, and it was looked into and denied. Well, excuse me, I'm tired of being blocked in, and if I need an ambulance service, I want it then and there, not the next day, when it's too late.
Anyone else to speak to the council?
Mr. Mayor, is there a reason why that request was denied before?
I don't think it ever was denied. The idea of no parking, was that ever a consideration?
it was talked about. We found one area, look, it was done for me last month, the mayor instructed me to do it, I just don't have the actual report done. There's gonna be an area of about 6 cars that's gonna be able to park on the side of that roadway between Jefferson Alley and Cedar Street. That's the only safe place for it, where you're not blocking the sidewalk, blocking the street, or blocking the. I just have not sat down and did the actual written report, but the mayor actually bring it to them, and I feel confident that when they see the photographs stuff, that it will pass, with the exception of that one 5 or 6 car area, which there are plenty of walking outside.
So at this point, to get it done, it's just a matter of putting up signs, right?
Once it's considered and recommendation comes forward, yeah, it can be done, but that recommendation to close the entire street, I don't think was ever considered in the past. I mean, it's a good idea. It seems like it's, it certainly would benefit the passage, but it never has been denied.
I think it is a good idea. I'm 100% in favor of it. I'm surprised it hasn't been done yet, and I thank Stacy for bringing it up. And I'd also like to say happy birthday to Stacy tonight.
I'm 80 years old today.
Happy birthday. Well, it's going through the proper channels, through the police department, and getting their recommendation first. Anyone else to speak to the council? Seeing no other hands, we'll move into the agenda. First thing on the agenda is the Finance Committee, or Finance Committee members, Councilman Downs and Councilman Haddox. And the first person to speak is the wage study presentation by Cody. Would you come up, introduce yourself and your company, please?
Good evening, council members. My name is Cody Soche. I am a senior consultant with SSA Consultants. We have just completed the compensation study for the town of Madisonville. I presented each of the council members with a copy of the final report, which will have all of the information and data with which I'm about to speak. But tonight I wanted to speak to you all about the methodology, the timeline, the process, some high-level findings, and then our recommendations. And if you have any questions about that, please let me know, and I would be happy to answer them. So with that being said, we started this process at the end of last year. As you all will remember, basically wanting to take a holistic look at the town's compensation plan that it offers its employees. What's included in a compensation plan is primarily the pay for each of the employees, how that pay is structured and administered, and benefits that are offered to employees as well. So to accomplish that, we reviewed the current pay structure. We also did a job analysis questionnaire, which was delivered to each of the employees of the town. Each of the employees had an opportunity to fill out a job analysis questionnaire. The job analysis questionnaire captures important information like primary duties and responsibilities, level of education required, level of experience required, level of supervision exercised, essential knowledge required, level of responsibility, and then overall supervision levels. That job analysis questionnaire process went smoothly. Each job analysis questionnaire was then provided back to us so we could complete the market valuations. As we talked about in the beginning of the study, we wanted to make sure that every market value that we provided for each of your jobs was tailored specifically for the job that is in Madisonville, which is why we did that whole job analysis questionnaire. We don't want to rely on titles. We want to rely on the contents of what each job is actually being is done. And so in this report, you will find market valuations for every job within the city, as well as a few extra ones, which I would like to address as well once we get there. We also collected benefit data, not only from the town, but from some regional agencies as well. This was the most time-consuming part of the study, as many of the towns, villages, and smaller municipalities in the area struggled to provide information appropriately, either not providing any information at all or providing incomplete information. So I think that was the most time-consuming part, was gathering that regional sort of benefit data. But we have collected, a group of that information, which is included in this study as well. So that's it. That's sort of the primary methodology for this study. That's really what we wanted to focus on, and make sure that the information that we provided with you was accurate, up to date, and based on the contents of the jobs in Madisonville. So starting on page 6 in the report, you'll find an introduction for the comparative salary analysis, and then beginning on page 7, you will see each of the jobs within the town of Madisonville, as well as what is listed as a market minimum, a market maximum, an hourly minimum, and an hourly maximum. So those market valuations for the jobs are based on the contents of the job analysis questionnaire, and then provided to you as sort of a spread based on the market mean. So when we say market minimum, that is going to be 20% below the market mean or market average for that job, and then a market maximum is going to be 20% above that market mean or market average for the job. These are what we like to refer to as the buoys. This is sort of the area that you want to be in for each of your jobs based on what is required for them. We have that listed as an annual number and as an hourly number, so you can sort of see both based on what you would like to look at. I do have a couple of positions listed with an asterisk behind them, including equipment operator 1, 2, and 3, a heavy equipment operator, and on the second page, water/wastewater operator 1 through 4. So I met with Kyle as a part of this process, and one of the issues that we discussed was there was not an appropriate way to sort of delineate from the maintenance crews and the equipment operator crews sort of who had the capability to do what versus some of the other ones. So what we wanted to do was make sure that we provided a structure so that there was a clear delineation on what each of these things means. So like, for example, with the equipment operator series, when you would come in as an equipment operator 1, you would be able to operate 1 or 2 basic pieces of town equipment, usually under close supervision. You wouldn't have a lot of leeway. As you progress to 2, you'd be able to operate a few more pieces of town equipment, a little bit more experience, a little bit less direct supervision, so on and so forth, where by the time you get to heavy equipment operator, you're able to operate any piece of town equipment with little to no direct supervision, and you're sort of an independent operator of that machine, and you're able to maintain them as well. With water and wastewater operators 1 through 4, this is tied directly to the certification that is tied to each of those positions. So your water or wastewater cert 1, then you would be a wastewater operator 1, 2, 3, and so on and so forth. And as you acquire more certifications for water and wastewater, compensation would obviously follow that as well. So that is the intention behind the structure of those jobs. Those jobs don't currently exist, but I wanted to provide market valuations for those jobs if the town should choose to move that direction in the future and create that structure of 1, 2, 3, 4 for each of these different series. So then you'll have the guidance of the market valuations if you need that. I think it's a good idea, and I think it does provide some appropriate structure. So I think a month or two ago, the town recently passed was it a budgetary amendment or was it the full budget, where individuals were moved based on their salary adjustments, I think, or whatever.
It was a regular budget. Yeah.
Regular budget, that's correct. Okay, all right, I just want to make sure I had that correct. So as of this time, once the budget was passed and all the individuals were moved, all of the current employees do fall within these market value ranges now, appropriately. And so you don't have any employees that are outside of these buoys now. And so I think that primary initial adjustment, which is usually our first recommendation, is to make sure that everybody's actually within the market value ranges. I think that has been addressed already, so I don't think there was any.
Is that based on their level of experience and time here, or just because their pay falls within the range?
I don't know the exact rationale behind where they are placed right now. I do know that they do fall in the range, and that was what I was looking at when they sent me over the updated pay, pay whatever. Yeah.
A lot of steps here, like
Yeah.
step 1.
Oh, yeah, I'm going to get to that in a minute. Don't worry. Yeah.
If it was based on that, or if it was based on?
Yeah, that's a proposed option, and I'll talk
Okay.
about that a little bit, because that's going to be something for y'all to decide whether or not you want to proceed with a tool like that. That's one of the recommendations, is an option to choose a more structured pay scale situation.
Thank you.
So I will discuss that whenever I get to that point, but thank you so much for bringing that up, absolutely. But yeah, so just generally speaking, they're within the range. For the benefit analysis, there's a lot of data and information starting on page 9, and then it goes through basically until you reach the recommendations. Within the benefit analysis, we have health insurance, annual leave, sick and vacation, which are combined here, some places separated out. We also have holidays, we have bereavement leave, we have prescription drug costs, we have retirement, a discussion around retirement, and basically an all-encompassing sort of benefit comparison where you can sort of see in a block how the town of Madisonville stacks up against some of the other ones in the area. And by and large, the town of Madisonville offers excellent benefits to its employees. I would say beyond competitive across the board, for the most part, with the one exception being holidays, of which the town offers 11 paid holidays, which is on the very low end of what is offered essentially around the area. The highest we see is around 20. The average is between 15 to 16, and y'all are on the lower end of that. When it comes to health insurance, your offerings are excellent. You can take some time reviewing the charts and see that when it comes to annual deductibles and when it comes to out-of-pocket maximums and all of sort of the big costs that can be associated with healthcare, the town of Madisonville is beyond competitive, which is excellent to see. And that's something that is really, I think, a good recruitment tool and a good retention tool. You can use that on both ends. And show people basically, the information that's contained within this chart, what a good situation you have working for the town of Madisonville. So I think that is a really great benefit to offer. When it comes to prescription drug costs, y'all are also on the forefront of offering some very competitive benefits. When it comes to retirement, so y'all are a bit unique, but not completely unique on the North Shore. So the mayor asked me a week or so ago to follow up on a question we had about another municipality that potentially offers both Social Security and the statewide retirement plan. It is true that they do offer both Social Security and MERS or IMPERS if you're a police officer. So you're not completely unique. And they're also on the North Shore, so they're not, far away from y'all, but it is unique in the broader sense that not very many towns or municipalities in the state do offer that. But it is sort of a fact that y'all do. And I followed up with a statewide retirement system, asking questions about what sort of wiggle room there was for the future, if there were any changes made or whatnot. And from what I understand is once you've offered Social Security as a benefit for a certain amount of time, you are tied to that permanently. And there's not a lot of room to get out of that. So it sort of is what it is. At least that's what I understand based on my conversation. With that being said, so it is a step above and beyond what some other municipalities offer, which would just be either MERS or IMPERS. But it's not entirely unique. Okay.
Cody, what was the other municipality?
Mandeville.
I spoke to Folsom, and they said they offered it as well as an option.
Yeah, they did, and they told me that, but I wanted to follow up and confirm, like, in writing that they do that, and they didn't get back to me. So I had that written as a note, but I didn't want to say that out loud publicly if I didn't have a written confirmation that they do that.
Yeah, I got that straight from the town clerk there.
Absolutely.
It was interesting because she said they offer it as an option, so you could opt out. The value of that Social Security is about 6.5%.
That's correct. Whenever it comes to total, yeah.
When we opt into Social Security, the town puts in about 6.5%, but then the employee's forced to put in 6.5% as well.
Yes, which draws from their paycheck directly. That's correct. It does offer an extra layer of security if you were to leave before you are vested in the statewide retirement system, though. So that is helpful.
Do we require it, or is it an option here?
No, it's a guarantee here.
It's a guarantee?
Yeah, we because we've been in it, we can't get out of that,
Okay.
offering one or the other. We have to hear both.
Okay, well, so the employee has to opt in and pay that, okay.
Now, they can opt out of the state,
That's what I meant, sorry, yeah.
the state, Social Security is in, the state is an optional.
Okay, thank you.
So Cody, before
Yes.
you move forward, as far as the retirement package goes, I take it that it's a plus.
I would say it is. Now, it may differ depending on personal opinion, right? Because once again, if you're taking Social Security out of my paycheck and I don't fundamentally believe in Social Security or something like that, or my personal opinions about that matter differ, then I might disagree. From my standpoint, I think generally speaking it's a positive because it provides a safety net for employees that may not get vested in the statewide retirement system. And it offers another added benefit once you do retire. So,
Yeah, I think that the downside is probably for an employee who's maybe raising a family, struggling with high prices right now. And I'm old enough to say 100%, boy, that's a benefit you ought to participate in. But, a younger family that can't make ends meet from one week to the next, maybe it's not a plus. It's actually a minus for some of those, or a negative.
that's absolutely correct. Yeah, it really depends on your personal standpoint and your paycheck and your situation at the end of the day, for sure.
But hadn't it always been that way, though? It's nothing new. I mean,
It's not new here, no. It's new in the sense that not every municipality or town does that, and that a lot of places, I would say the majority of places, just offer the statewide retirement system, and they sort of view it as a golden handcuff type situation where you have to stay within that retirement system for a certain amount of time to become vested and receive any benefits upon retirement. And by not offering Social Security, they're saving their town or city a few extra dollars on the side, and really incentivizing people to stay longer. I understand that argument, but I think it's a good offering, if that makes sense, in the long term. But I can understand arguments against it.
yeah, I understand about Social Security taken out of a check as a burden.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
This is jumping back to holidays.
Yes.
What's the perception on, maybe we don't have as many holidays, but if we paid extra for those holidays, is that considered a quality benefit, or are most employees like, no, I prefer the day off?
I would say generally most employees would prefer the day off. Just from I'm not going to speak for everybody, but just from my own historical perspective. Now, if you are emergency personnel, if you are someone who has to be on standby or work those days one way or another, then yeah, extra pay would definitely be appreciated.
Okay.
But yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay.
Just, can he finish the program?
I just got a few recommendations to get through, only like 4 or 5, and then, yeah, absolutely. Okay, so first recommendation is to establish salary ranges which are based on the market valuations contained within this report. So these would be officially adopted pay ranges for each of the jobs, and this would be the starting minimum and then the sort of the maximum at the top end. And this would be your guidance for all future new hires. So that way, whenever you're hiring new individuals, you're making sure that you're staying market competitive. It's fairly straightforward with the data that's in this report. And that's just to make a policy about hiring within those market ranges. Recommendation 2 is sort of more of a 1A, and this is to adopt standardized pay ranges. And so as you brought up earlier, I have included within your binder, there's a sort of little handout. It's a legal-sized piece of information that has each of the positions within the town of Madisonville, the market valuations for each of the jobs, and then some potential pay steps associated with each of those jobs. So the step 1, or what would be the entry starting rate, is based on that market minimum that's contained within the report. It then progresses from step 1 to step 2, which is a 2% increase over a step 1, and then so on and so forth, all the way up through step 20, with the intent of the system to be providing an annual increase of at least 2% to each of the employees, so you can easily map and transparently understand, especially for budgeting process, how employees' pay will change over time. You can also show employees career progression, so you can say, okay, if you're starting at step 3 or step 4 or whatever step you're starting at, based on how many years you work with the city or with the town, over time, assuming you are meeting expectations, you will be progressing through this pay scale appropriately, and within X amount of time, you can be at this spot. So it's sort of a more transparent way of operating. And provides a more stable structure around annual pay increases. And there are cons associated with a tool like this. It's a little less flexible in the sense that you have defined steps up through 20, but the pro is it's transparent and easily planned around. That being said, I do not think the town should adopt a policy that all new employees are hired at step 1. That step 1 or that market minimum would represent somebody who is coming into a job with essentially the bare minimum qualifications for what the town would be expecting someone to fill that role. So just meeting the bare minimum experience, the bare minimum education, all those sort of things. Someone like that would be hired on the lower end of the pay range, but if someone is brought in that has ample experience or qualifications that are above and beyond what the town has required for their position description, they would probably be hired a little bit later on into that pay scale. So I have provided this as sort of a proposed pay scale for the town, which can be adopted and then moved towards on an annual basis. And it would provide a stable and easy, transparent way to plan for future salary increases. Recommendation 3 is to update and standardize position descriptions. This is to really create sort of professional job descriptions based around what each of the jobs are currently doing now, so you don't have to go through the process of a job analysis questionnaire or go through this sort of, let's really just, so you don't have to do this over and over again, where we have to sort of refigure out what each of our jobs are doing and what they're supposed to be doing. This can be done in tandem with directors, supervisors, and the employees themselves. Basically understanding, one, what is happening within the job now, and then two, what are our expectations of the job, and then you can build a position description based off of that. And then you can use some of that information for the future as your salary planning as well.
Cody, if I understand
Yes.
this correctly, we have those in place currently.
Not up-to-date position descriptions.
I thought that was the very first thing we did.
We did job analysis questionnaire so we could get accurate market valuations. Yeah, so we did the job analysis questionnaire. We took all the job analysis questionnaires, we loaded them up into a spreadsheet. I'd be happy to give you a format, and you can drop all the information from the job analysis questionnaire into the position description. That should be very straightforward. But you just need to take a bit of time and make sure that that's for the future how you want it to be set up. But yeah, that job analysis questionnaire is exactly what all the market valuations are based on, and that's the jobs as they exist now, currently today. So yes.
Yeah, so it seems like it would make sense then to take that, develop the job descriptions for every position on this chart or whatever chart
Yeah, absolutely.
we're using.
Yeah.
And then annually update.
Update it, that's correct. And make sure that it's consistent with what the town needs in the future, right? And so especially with these like equipment operator, 1, 2, 3, heavy equipment operator and stuff like that, having that sort of standardized for the future, I think is a good idea too. Okay. Conduct market-based compensation review every 3 to 5 years. This is just to keep yourself in check. Make sure that you just, and then once you've done this the first time, right, so now you have this sort of, this foundation, right, where you've really sort of built this compensation foundation for the town, it becomes a whole lot easier to re-review it in the future, and especially if you're looking at your position descriptions every year and you're keeping them up to date, then it's plug and play really. It's like, you can just take it. Only takes, a short amount of time. You go through, you check each job, market value, make sure that they're up to date, make sure that you're staying within those buoys. And it's a very straightforward process and a lot easier once you do that.
So if I understand you correctly, then the next administration and administrations after that should have this done, and since everything's in place, your
It should be a plug and play. Yeah, that's exactly right. Because you'd only be doing, you wouldn't be doing a lot of the other stuff, none of that, but
And
yeah.
our cost, then obviously, we won't have, you won't have as much work to do, so we can.
Me or anyone else. Yeah, exactly. Because all this stuff's set up. You know what I mean? So you have all these position descriptions with all the stuff that's clearly delineated. You can take that, you can plug it directly into your market valuations. And then I would say, about an hour to 2 hours per job, just on an analysis standpoint. You can put it together in a very easy, simple to understand report, and then that's it. You don't have to worry about a lot of that other stuff, and you can just, that's like a couple of weeks long process,
So the initial investment we put into doing this should be our maximum investment.
Theoretically, yeah, unless it all falls apart in the
Right.
future. And
If it's kept up, then to utilize, for example, we utilize you again in 4 years, the next administration does this same process, where they should not be looking at spending what we spent, assuming it's kept up and maintained.
Yeah, assuming you got everything lined up like we're talking about today, and you have your pay, your system already set up, and you got your job descriptions that you feel confident are up to date and appropriate, that's it. It's very straightforward. Yeah. That's it for me.
Any other questions from the council?
Yeah, I have a few.
Yes.
First of all, I guess the position that we have here in town that was the most perplexing to me in trying to evaluate is Kyle's position, where he's in charge of the gas company, the water, the sewer, everything like that. Is in your pay plan, you've got a public works director. Are you suggesting that would be his?
That's correct, yeah. That's the title I was using for his role.
And how did you take into account all those various duties that position has?
Yeah, so we like to call that a hybrid job, and sort of on the back end. And basically what we want to do is take a percentage of his time spent doing each of those items. So from a technical compensation analysis standpoint, basically what we wanted to understand is how much of his time is he spending doing utilities, how much of his time is he spending doing maintenance, how much of his time spent doing this and that, and then what are all the qualifications and certifications you need to do all those types of things as well, right? So He has a wide variety of types of work that he has to do. Now, that being said, his span of supervision is lower than it's going to be in like a larger, more developed, like sort of like metropolitan type public works director type job. But he does have to wear a lot of different hats, especially with the water, wastewater as well. All the stuff that goes into that for sure.
All right.
So the pay plan that you have suggested here, so it has the 20 steps in it. And I think you did something similar for Mandeville, because I looked at the.
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah.
What would be the standard practice for a municipality if they adopt this pay plan in placing an employee? So we have an employee, let's say, with 15 years of experience on the police force. Would they typically be placed in the pay plan at step 15?
That's a really good question. And it sort of depends on where the rest of your employees are placed. Because at the end of the day, the only thing that I can really, really recommend, because it's going to come down to your own philosophy really about this stuff, your compensation philosophy, which is what your organization puts forward as your sort of idea as how you want to pay your employees and how you want to approach that. Whichever route you decide to do when you place employees. Well, first off, don't ever cut somebody's pay when you put somebody onto a pay plan. It's always going to be a little differentiation, maybe a few dollars here and there between what they're currently paid and what like the closest step is going to be, but never go below that. Like, don't cut somebody's pay whenever you put them onto a pay plan, if that makes sense. And then two, whichever route you decide on placing employees, you need to be consistent across the board. So if you choose to do that for one group of employees, you say, okay, you've got 15 years of experience, therefore you're on step 15, but you have another employee that's got 15 years of experience, but maybe you don't think that they're as good at their job as the other one. You got to put them at step 15 if you did it for that other employee. Like, be consistent across the board.
All right, so I know what my philosophy would be. It would be to put them where they belong on the pay scale if we adopt it. But my question really is, you've done this for many municipalities. What's the typical approach that those municipalities take?
I would say 90% of them take a budgetary conscious approach, and that they ensure that employees have their seniority level taken into account, but I would say that most of the time they don't always end up exactly on the same step with the amount of years that they had, depending on total cost of implementation.
Okay, so they do an evaluation of, if they put them at that step 15, for instance, what that would cost the town, and then because of budgetary considerations, maybe they can't afford to do that.
Whether they can or cannot, yes, they're taking a I would say budgetary conscious approach. Yeah.
Deidre, do you have that picture that I sent you? I want to pull this out. The town workers. So currently, we don't have what I've noticed about, because I've been looking at the other municipalities as well. What I've noticed that in the maintenance departments, they typically have a maintenance worker and then they have an equipment operator. And then the bigger municipalities may even have skilled labor positions like carpenter, or plumber, things like that. We really just have the segmented positions that I see are utility worker or maintenance worker. So in your plan here, you've got 5 different equipment operator pay levels. That picture, does somebody recognize the guy who's on that equipment? That's actually, I'm working on the gas line behind my house. Is that Willie? Yes. Okay, it's Willie. Does he work for the town?
Yes.
Okay. What would you call that piece of equipment?
A backhoe?
No, I mean just in general terms, compared to your pay plan, because you've got a heavy equipment operator, you got a 1, 2, 3.
Yeah, so really, what we're talking about is your ability to be trained and operate multiple different pieces of town equipment with little to no supervision. So, like, as you scale up, right? So your equipment operator 1 would be somebody that can come in and operate 1, maybe 2 pieces of town equipment, usually with somebody nearby to make sure that everything is going according to plan. You probably aren't the best at maintaining that piece of equipment either. As you scale up within the job, you're able to operate more and diverse pieces of equipment as you continue to scale, which by the time you're reaching the max or the heavy equipment operator, you should be able to operate and maintain any piece of town equipment with little to no supervision.
All right, so would that qualify as a heavy equipment?
I don't know.
It's considered
Yeah.
light equipment.
Yeah, no, I don't know how many pieces he can operate or what his current situation is.
He was pretty good at operating that because they were digging out the gas line, basically, and there's a scoop on the front of that piece of equipment that's right next to the head of the guy who's sitting in the hole. So I would say he's pretty skilled in that.
Yeah,
equipment.
yes, I'm sure, yeah.
He didn't hurt anybody, and Kyle was out there supervising as well, and I've seen Kyle use the equipment himself, too.
Yeah.
The other thing that's in your pay plan here that every position has is it says a market minimum and a market maximum.
Yeah.
What's the market?
So the market mean is the market average.
No, where did you get?
Oh, the data is pulled from a diverse industrial sector, so we're chasing both public and private data pulled specifically from this region. So we're able to level set basically a diversified industrial portfolio. So we're pulling public, private, nonprofit, any organization within this region that employs that type of job. And then we're using specifically this region's data. So we're not pulling from New Orleans or Baton Rouge or Mississippi. We're pulling from this specific area.
Right, and I saw somewhere in the report that you mentioned Franklinton, Avita Springs, Pearl River, and the Village of Sun. What data did you get from them?
Well, it depends on which one you're asking about. From Sun, we got nothing. From Franklinton, we got nothing. From Avita, we got some specific responses to our questions about benefit data around health insurance and things like that, but they weren't specific enough for us to put in the chart for a direct comparison. So like when we asked about their benefit offerings for health insurance, they were like, yes, we offer health insurance, which is fantastic. I'm glad that you do, but it's not appropriate for our comparison sakes. We had a similar situation with Avita where they offered some information, but it wasn't specific enough for us to compare. Pearl River did offer some specific information, which is why I have like a little bit of their information in the health insurance chart. Folsom offered most all of their information, but especially when it came to health insurance, they are on a individually negotiated plan. So each employee's plan is negotiated directly with the health insurance company. And so therefore there's no consistency around deductibles, maximums, prescription drug costs, premiums, or any of those types of things, since each one is individually negotiated. So we couldn't include that directly for comparison.
So why did you select those four municipalities?
Initially, the idea was we wanted to try to get information from places which would be closer in size to Madisonville. And so that was our initial intent with reaching out to all of these other smaller villages and towns. We spent months, literally hundreds of consulting hours. I personally drove to each of these towns to request information in person, in writing, in addition to phone calls, emails. As we continue to progress in the process, and we're making very little to no headway in requesting benefit information from a lot of these places, we decided to broaden the search and reach out to other municipalities in the area, of which we got responses relatively quickly, and we're able to follow up a lot easier and get more detailed information. So we wanted to just make sure that we had information that would be of interest to the town. So
when I see those municipalities in here, I still don't know for sure. Did you take salary information from them?
They're included in the salary
Okay.
data set, but they are not a one-to-one comparison in any way, shape, or form.
Let me ask you if you took a few other things just into consideration. You've got Avita Springs and you've got Sun on here. Neither one of those municipalities provide 24-hour police protection. Did you take that into consideration when they were included in this report?
Their police data is not included in any comparison.
The cost of living. Here in Madisonville, there's about 700 zip codes in the state of Louisiana. The cost of housing here is ranked 5 out of those 700. The top 3 are in New Orleans. They're where you would expect: Uptown, Lakeview, French Quarter. We're number 5 out of those 700. The average cost of a house in 70447 is more than twice what it is in Franklinton. Yet I've got Franklinton sitting here on this report. That, to me, that's something that would be important to consider when you're looking for data from somewhere else, is that if there's that big of a disparity between the two locations that you're looking at. The average household income in Franklinton is $50,000. In Sun, it's even less, it's $42,000. I called the Village of Sun, and when I called that day, the mayor's wife answered the phone at Town Hall. She was volunteering because the clerk was out.
That's correct.
You know,
None of these, I just want to clarify, I want to make sure that you understand that none of these towns that I reached out to for benefit data on the direct one-to-one comparisons had any sort of weight in the salary calculations, which were level set to Madisonville specifically and the surrounding area. So I'm not directly comparing any job that Madisonville has to Franklinton or Sun or Folsom or any place like that. There's no one-to-one job comparison. One, because the jobs that you have are going to be unique to here, and they're not going to be exactly the same, even if you try to match titles one-to-one. A great example is like town clerk, right? Which I think we had some good discussions about early on in the process. Depending on which town you're in, that could mean a lot of different things as to what that town clerk is actually doing for that town. So that was why it's so important on the front end of this process to do that job analysis questionnaire, so we could know here in Madisonville, what is the town clerk actually doing? And it entails a lot more, like human resource type related activities, supervision, other stuff. So yeah, absolutely.
just on the cost of living, we're number 5. By the way, number 4 is Mandeville right next to us. And to me, that's something that's important when I see those municipalities listed as somehow being involved in this data, but I still don't know what so you're saying these weren't included, what
No, not a
municipalities
direct
weren't?
one-to-one comparison, right?
I'm assuming you're taking an aggregate.
It's an aggregate,
several.
that's
Right.
correct, yeah,
So
it's an
in addition to
aggregate pool of
these
data.
4, what were the others?
I don't have the entire list of every organization that's in the aggregate data, because once again, it's both public and private entities as well. So we use a data set provided by the Economic Research Institute, which is updated semi-quarterly. So actually like every 6 weeks or so, the data set is updated. You're able to filter by very specific groups of information. So one, what is the region of data that you want to pull from? So you would set that to your own town or your own municipality very specifically. You would then set what industries or what groups or types of organizations do you want included in this data set. You can then set, okay, we only want other towns and municipalities with greater than X number of individuals living in it, or we only want towns or municipalities with less than X numbers of individuals, or you can set it based on revenue, or you can set it, there's a lot of different toggles and factors on how you can make sure that this data is appropriately set to what you're doing. Why we take a diversified look as opposed to a one-to-one comparison with another town or municipality is because there are a lot of jobs that exist outside of government operations. And so we want to make sure that if they do exist outside of government operations and you are competing directly with these other groups, that their data is also included.
So you keep saying we. Well, we selected these, or we were looking at, who's the we that you're talking about? Is it SSA Consulting?
SSA Consultants is correct.
Nobody else.
Here.
No, our firm selected the information and the data set to be compared to the town of Madisonville.
Would it also be safe to say, in regards to the variables, we're all trying to hire from the same applicant pool in comparison to our neighbor municipalities, is that correct?
Yes,
That was
correct.
taken into consideration?
Yes, that is correct. So whenever we're looking at any sort of job that you're trying to hire or retain an employee from, you're going to be looking at the area of Madisonville and then the surrounding area, of which we would consider typically like commuting distance, right? So that's what we would normally do.
So, getting back to this Franklinton, Abita, Pearl River, Sun, I mean, I already know the answer to this question because you told me on the phone, but are we really competing with them for people, or are we competing more with Mandeville and Covington and the parish?
Definitely more Mandeville, Covington, and the parish. I did, as I mentioned earlier, for the process, we wanted to make sure that we attempted to reach out to all of these groups, especially on the benefit comparison side, to make sure that we were understanding, the sort of things, but,
The only other thing is, we're looking to implement something for all the employees here in town. Prior to this, and before I got on the council came up with a pay scale for the council members and for the mayor. It was a pretty substantial increase for the council, 60-something percent. I don't think they compared themselves to Sun, because when I called Sun, I asked the mayor's wife, how much does a council person make there? And she didn't know. She had the clerk call me back. The clerk said it's $75 a month. And I want to make sure whatever data we're using here, just from a leadership perspective, that we're applying the same principles that we apply to our pay, that we apply them to the people who do the work in this town. And so I'm still confused about Sun being in this report and how much it factored in, or Folsom, or Franklinton, which is an hour away.
Wouldn't it fall on the minimum versus the max? You have
and so once again, the aggregate data set that we're using is so large and encompasses literally hundreds of organizations that report data and information that, and I don't know if Sun or Franklinton or Folsom, any of those are directly participating in the aggregate data set. I reached out to them for benefit information comparison purposes only, specifically. They are not included in the salary calculations or anything to do directly with the compensation-related information.
All right, so the other thing that I would just add, because I've been looking at this for quite some time myself, Mandeville is probably the highest paid of all the municipalities around here, across the board.
I wouldn't say one way or the other. I'm not 100% sure.
That's the highest that I've found. And they kind of actually shared their salary survey, which was done by SSA Consultants a few years ago with everybody up here. But just to summarize some of the things you said about the benefits, our employees generally are getting a better deal on Social Security than most other municipalities, except for Mandeville. We're doing the same with them. And that's maybe worth about 6.5%. And our benefits the other benefits are on the high end as well, even compared to Mandeville.
Yes.
Would you apply a percentage to that of how much better they are?
I don't have a specific percentage in my mind, but if you want to look at sort of their offerings, and you can see their annual out-of-pocket maximums and their annual deductibles in-network and out-of-network, you can see sort of one-to-one on the comparison, but I don't have a specific percentage.
Cody, I'm sure you're glad this is over for you.
Look, no,
I've been waiting, so I'd like to ask
I'm
one
talking about the whole
last question.
survey, because I've been trying to help him get information as well, and,
yes.
I connected you with a lot of people. I don't think they gave you any more information after I connected you than they gave you before.
Margaret was helpful. Thank you.
I have a simple question.
Yes, ma'am.
Just to clarify, the minimum maximum for the market valuation,
Yes.
it does not include any benefits, am I correct?
No, this is a direct cash compensation comparison.
Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
Where do you think that weighs in? While I understand that we are ahead, do we really think that it's, how should we, I guess, I don't know how to weigh that.
Yeah, that's a great question. So when we're talking about sort of total compensation in the pop terms, or how people
Right.
refer to that, I think that total compensation can be a useful tool for informing employees sort of what the total value of their employment is. I think some places will provide a total compensation letter on an annual basis, which will say, here's the total value of everything that you've received from the town as a part of your employment. I think that can be helpful for conversations. For budgetary purposes, I know you have to always account for overhead and all the types of things that go with that, benefit rates. But at the end of the day, I think that it's important to look at those two things separately, because, benefits don't buy a gallon of milk, and so I think that it's important to understand where you stand from a compensation standpoint on a cash basis, and then you can make a decision. You can say, look, we offer X amount of benefits, we're a public organization, there are a lot of different rationales you can use to follow that path, but I think it's important to see the data for what it is.
I agree. I wanted to clarify and make sure I understood. I've never had a job offer where someone said, I'm going to pay you X amount of dollars a year, and then I start and they're like, oh, well, that was the total amount.
Yeah.
Let's subtract out your benefits. So I understand. I just wanted to make sure that these numbers were based without that.
That's
Thank
correct.
you.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you.
Do the salary range for police officers, does that include the state supplemental pay?
No, that is direct cash compensation. State supplemental pay is added on top.
So one of the other things that you said, in particular for police officers, was that everybody falls within this range on the salaries. And I didn't have enough time to look at that and see. But last year, the governor of the state declared a state of emergency for, I don't know if you heard about this or not, but it was for police officer shortages. At the time, he said there were, just the sheriff's departments were 800 people short. They had 800 openings they couldn't fill. We had an opening, and I think this is the earliest, this is actually a post by Tim Bounds down there at the other end on Kristen's Facebook group, on June 21st, 2024, to fill one police officer vacancy. It took us all the way to March of 2025, 9 months to fill that one vacancy. If you're talking about a police department like the New Orleans Police Department and you're missing one person, that's not a big deal. But this department with 7 people, it's kind of a big deal. Did you take that into account at all when looking at the police officer scale?
I've done a lot of work with police officer, law enforcement agencies in and around the state, especially in southeast Louisiana, including the NOPD. Everybody is struggling. It's a difficult thing to recruit and retain police officers in this day and age. It just is what it is. Whenever we do a market valuation for police officers, we're pulling data from other law enforcement agencies. So they have a similar issue that's the same with teachers and with nurses and with EMS and other first responder type positions, where if everybody pays a certain amount, then that's what the market is going to be set at. Whether or not you think it should be higher or lower than that, I think that the town, or the city next to you, Mandeville, did the same thing when I provided them data and information around their police department. They chose to go above and beyond the information that I provided them. That was their prerogative. At the end of the day, what I'm trying to do is provide you information that you can then make a decision about.
I think last time you were here, you said you worked with Slidell also. Didn't they just give their officers a pay raise?
Yes, I believe they started with a 10% raise, and I haven't heard most recent development, but I know they started with a 10% raise earlier this year.
I was thinking about this earlier today because in the news there was yet another school shooting, I think in Minnesota. We have a school right here in town, Madisonville Junior High, but we have 3 others right on the outskirts of town. The private school on 21, Madisonville Elementary on 1077 in Lancaster. And my guess is it's pretty likely that if something bad happened at one of those schools, our officers would be the first ones on the scene. Likely, if not almost certainly, because just the proximity. So when we think about things like that, sometimes we're just looking up here at numbers. But I've been through some of the active shooter trainings. In the trainings, I've learned that an active shooter situation that normally lasts from like 6 to 10 minutes, and then it's over with. So it's critical to have the best people responding and responding quickly. And I think that's something else. We're making decisions up here about public safety that could have a profound impact on people that live in the town and the schools around the town. It's an unfortunate time that we live in. I didn't grow up at a time like that where we were worried about someone coming in and shooting us in a classroom. But things like that, I feel like we have to take into account when we start to make decisions about what we're going to pay for police officers. But I would also say the same with maintenance. You didn't put that in your list, but I think maintenance workers are hard to come by these days as well. Skilled labor, wouldn't you say that?
I haven't looked at the most recent data on like hiring trends or like labor openings for skilled labor, but I know anecdotally there has been, especially around skilled trades, I've heard a lot about, for sure.
All right, well, I know you put a lot of work into this. You told me that you spent way more hours than you expected to, and I just want to thank you for the work that you have done.
Thank you. And look,
Quick question?
Yes.
One question.
For you.
Yeah.
You spoke a lot about market reference median, right? And all of our employees are within that median, if I heard you.
And within the buoys, which we would say like the market minimum and the
Which
market
is,
max.
which is, if I heard you
20%
right,
spread.
20% below median is the low range, 20% above median is the high range.
Yes, sir.
So my question for you is, if I heard you correctly, most of the municipalities that you present this data to take that structured level of, like equipment operator 1, 2, 3, 4.
Yes.
Okay, so my question for you is, when you came up with the market reference median, how did you come up with that market reference median? Was it the middle of equipment operator 1 through 4?
So
To
we-
take that median, or did you market reference at the bottom, the top? Where did that market reference come from?
That's a great question. So we did each individually, right? So as we scaled it up, so like the primary function of the job is generally going to stay the same, operates equipment, right?
Right.
But the complexity of what that equipment operator is doing is going to scale. And so you would look at each job individually, right? And so you're going to scale both your experience and your level of experience, responsibilities, duties, those other things I talked about. So each one looks at individually, scaled up, and then so basically I would determine a market mean for each of those jobs.
Right.
And then once I had a mean for each of those jobs on an individual basis, they then spread 20% below, 20% below.
Okay, so, but we currently don't have those positions in place.
Yeah.
So when you're saying that all of our employees fall within that buoy.
Within the buoy of their own
you're
job
not-
title.
You don't have those ranges established yet, so I'm just curious, where are you?
Well, we did do market valuations for their current job titles. So everyone's current job that they're currently in, they're within the buoys for their current job title. The proposed jobs of equipment operators 1, 2, 3, and 4 came from a discussion with Kyle and understanding that maybe in the future we want to add some more structure around this. So there would need to be some work, primarily from Kyle's end, on figuring out
Where does the employee fall?
where does everyone fall into what this new structure would be. Because I don't know the individual employees' capacities. But, yeah.
One other quick question, because I think I know the answer to this, but not certain. From a state retirement standpoint, some municipalities adopt the Social Security and state retirement together, correct?
It's on the rarer side.
It's
Yeah.
rare. So if we did adopt it, does it in any way, shape, or form affect the state benefits? Are they exactly the same?
They're the same.
That's
Your
what-
payout is going to be
Same.
the same depending on which, so the state retirement system has a Plan A and a Plan B. And so depending on whichever municipality you choose, you're going to be a part of that, and that's what you're going to receive on your payout.
Okay, so Social Security doesn't.
It's just going to be on top of that. Yeah. So once you're eligible to pull Social Security, you can.
Cody, just one more question from over here.
Yes.
And certainly, go ahead.
Actually, I have two. One is reference to MERS.
Yes.
I'm trying to remember. My understanding is if you're under MERS here in town, you're also under Social Security, right?
In
Correct.
this town specifically, yes.
Right, and there's no
Yeah.
option there.
There's no option.
No option. Okay. The other thing is, how do you factor in a town like ours, the importance of promotion opportunities
Yeah.
in these numbers? Because we're concerned about retention. We want retention across the board. And the question is, how you retain employees when, in some cases, there is no growth opportunity?
It's a great question. Yeah, so that was also another, on the back end discussions for not only the equipment operator series, but the water and the wastewater positions as well, creating the levels 1, 2, 3, and 4. because you want to incentivize people to grow within their career, right? So you would say, okay, the more equipment you learn how to use and things like that, you have opportunities to go above and beyond. And with water, wastewater, the more certifications you achieve, there are opportunities to go above and beyond. That being said, it is an unfortunate sort of reality where if you're in an organization of a certain size, you can't create promotional opportunities ad infinitum because there's just nowhere to go after a certain amount of time. And a lot of times there's just sort of like one-off jobs, right, that are just solely encapsulated of the purpose for which they're created. Now, that being said, I think that there are a lot of opportunities for incentivizing like personal growth, like within your job, like if you want to go out and get additional certifications above and beyond what we would maybe require for the job. Like if you're in HR or something like that, and you go get like some SHRM stuff or something like that on top of your job, maybe some incentive pay on top of that. For police officers, there's a bunch of different incentives that people have been discussing above and beyond just for different trainings and opportunities above. So I think that that's a good way to help if you can't create another job that has like a real value or level above from where you're at.
Cody? Yes, ma'am.
Let me stay in because I know I'm short. All right. My question is, how many of the town employees actually live in town? How many can afford to live in town? Because as far as I know, most of the town employees have to live elsewhere. I know, like with my property, I inherited it. Otherwise, I couldn't afford to live there. So how many of the employees actually can afford to live in Madisonville rather than having to live outside and work for Madisonville?
It's a good question. I do not have an answer for you.
No.
Cody, I have one last question for you. It's a quick one. The inspector or our town permit officer, I don't see a position for that on our.
It might have been listed under something else specifically. If it's not included, I'll make sure to send you an updated version. I'll go back and double check that.
That would be great.
Thank you.
Also, Cody, just looking, I don't know if these numbers are accurate, just got these tonight, but it's the current pay for all of our employees. Is that what this is?
That is.
Okay. Just for the record.
And it's accurate.
Previous.
Okay. Just for the record, 2 of the police officers are below their current pay on this, are below the minimum on your scale. You said everybody fell within it.
Okay, that was what I was, if there's somebody
Can you
below,
identify which ones?
Yeah, it's,
Paul?
it's Paul and Greg.
Mike?
Yeah,
and Mike.
Greg is part-time.
Yeah. Does it matter if it's somebody's part-time or full-time?
I mean, it depends if they're doing a good job. But,
And if you identify Paul, you look at it, please, because he's not below the minimum. The minimum hourly is $20.43.
Is the previous, look at the highlighted one, Lewis. Yeah, the highlighted one is the new one with the new, in the 2026 budget. Yeah, that's why I wrote the old one down first.
No one working for the town is below the minimum.
correct.
Just Greg, then.
Thank you.
Huh?
Just Greg.
No, just part-time is not,
I wouldn't differentiate between a part-time police officer and a full-time, other than Greg gets no benefits.
well, I mean, he is identified as a part-time employee. Thank you very much.
Thank you all. It was a pleasure to
What
speak
you've
with you. And if you have any follow-up questions or anything like that, please feel free to reach out. I'm happy to discuss anything further. And thank you so much. Hope you all have a good evening.
Thank you.
Thanks, Cody.
Mr. Mayor, I think the next step for me would be to evaluate, if we took, and we don't have a lot of employees, less than 30, to take those employees and plot them on this pay scale that's proposed by SSA consultants based upon their years of service to the town at least, if not years of service in that type of position, to come back to us with, well, what would this cost us if we fully implemented this pay scale? What would it be? What's the cost to the town? That's the only way that we can really start to evaluate. So for instance, with Paul, I think you've been with the town 14 years? 15. So, if we took somebody like Paul and everybody else that have been with us for 15 years and put them in step 15, or wherever on the pay plan they would fall, What's the cost of this pay plan? So that's, to me, that's the first thing we have to look at.
I think you probably need to do that and then evaluate and look and see what the cost is going to be, because it wouldn't be feasible for the town to do it.
I don't know that
Because again, step plan was considered just last year, and the police department alone, over the last 2 years, they received a 23% increase in pay over the last 2 years. So if you're looking at the step plan was considered by the finance committee, public safety committee, I'm sorry, just last year, and was placed on a step increase.
Yeah.
And it wasn't this one, it was their own, but it wasn't this one, and that's why we hired someone to do this.
Right. So I think the plan itself, to me, just on the surface and what Cody has said, looks legitimate if we apply this service credit to our current employees. But let's say we go in and we calculate what that is, and it is too much. I would say, well, maybe we're looking at a multi-year plan to move them up to that point. And maybe 1 year we get them halfway up, and the other year we go another half, or it's third over 2 years. I don't want to just say, oh, it's not feasible. I want to see what the numbers are and see, how we can maybe get ourselves to a point where the salaries are competitive, even if it takes a period of time.
And I think that's a fair way to look at it, and certainly would encourage everyone to look at however you look at this pay step, step, look at it, assess what you feel like is fair to the employee and to the town, and come back with a recommendation. So, I mean, that's the only way to look at this now.
I can't make a recommendation without knowing the numbers. I don't know how many years of service each one of these employees have.
Well, I think therein lies a major issue. If you get compensated strictly upon your years of experience, that's been proven to be a very, very poor business decision, right? I think years of experience are extremely important, but your ability, what do you accomplish during your time that you work here? So if we bring in a young person that's only got 5 years experience, but whatever his role is, he is the most dominant and best one we have. He has a financial value that's higher than a person that may have 15 years that does the absolute minimum to get by. So that's where we start running into issues when you start dealing with HR and you start dealing with compensation packages. To try and lay out a black and white guaranteed pay path, and it's strictly based upon tenure, we're heading down a financial dead end.
The utility workers are not though on this.
I hear where you're coming from, but I think it should be more complex than that, right? Tenure should play a very important role, but at the same time, someone's ability to perform their job and what do they mean to that job and what do they mean to that department. And those are the things that needs to be more comprehensive than strictly, hey, you've been here 10 years, so you get this amount. Even though you do the minimum. You've only been here 5 years, but you do twice what this guy does, but you can't make that money. So it has to be a more comprehensive approach, and I think that's what we have department heads here that should be relaying that information to us now that we have this data. Right? I don't think a decision is going to be made tonight. It's good to know that we're in the buoys, but do we have some people that are too far up the buoy line? They're too close to the higher buoy or too closer to the lower buoy. And there's a lot of things that go into it besides years of experience. I don't want to get us pigeonholed into one aspect. That would be my input.
I'm just saying the starting point is to take what's been proposed, put the existing employees in there and see what it cost us, and then go from there. Because as Cody pointed out, these steps are 2% per year, which is kind of a minimal amount when you look at especially recent inflation. How long has Kirk worked for us? Eisendorf. Has he been here for 30 years? I don't know. We probably have some people that have been here for 30 years.
20 years.
Yeah, so we have a whole bunch, I think, that are at or near that upper end of the scale. And so that's the first thing that I want to look at is, what's the cost here? And then we go from there.
Well, I think we also need to make sure that we've got everybody defined correctly. So not so much in the police department, because what we have here is just police chief patrolmen and lieutenant patrolmen. But in the utilities, where we've got equipment operators and wastewater, we need to make sure that those employees are categorized. But I think, like Cody said, we need to have a better definition before we can categorize them. I would assume that not all employees are equal, and that there are some that have more equipment experience that should fall in one of these higher ranges. So we need to make sure we're looking at that as well and get that definition from, I'm assuming, would be Kyle. We can obviously put our opinions in, but he's the one that's managing them on a day-to-day basis. I think if we're going to give them tiers of experience and knowledge, then we need to get that information from him and know where everybody is.
Yeah, and just according to Cody, we're between the two buoys, which tells me we're currently in a pay structure as being competitive. But also, we don't want to create a financial burden for future generations or future administrations for the town. So we have to work within those guidelines as well.
Well, just yesterday, just so you know, Deidre and I met with our insurance company, and the benefits package, the 2025 benefits package is going up by 9%. So that's just an additional cost that wasn't in the budget, we didn't have those numbers, and that's a tremendous increase to our numbers already. So know, as you do this, that the benefits never go down; they always go up. But we wasn't anticipating or seeing a 9% increase on the benefits.
9% is pretty typical. On health insurance?
Mm-hmm.
That's pretty typical.
Thank you, Cody.
So, coming back, taking the information we received tonight and coming back for our discussion is the proper way to do that. Certainly, anything can be considered, but before we have some numbers or some ideas from individuals, we can't sit here and make any final decisions, I wouldn't think.
Who on our staff is capable of taking the 26 people we have and putting their salaries into this?
Yeah, what salaries where?
To this proposed scale? Who we have on staff that could actually do that for us?
You put it in a spreadsheet. You want a spreadsheet? Is that what you want? Or are you wanting to classify each person into each categories?
That to take this scale right here, which has, 26 people, and
Where do they fall in?
where would they fall in here? What would the overall, increase in cost be? What
What does he have, step 1 through whatever? They have workers. What I'll do is do it by employee name and position, put them what step they're in, or where their current pay was.
I'm talking about if we adopted this plan and put them at the appropriate step based upon how many years they've been with us. Not where they currently are. I already know where they currently are.
So it's strictly based upon tenure.
Correct. Yes, and just like almost every other municipality out there, they have a scale that looks like this. Mandeville's looks just like this. Everywhere I've worked since my first job at Pizza Inn in Mandeville, we had some people who worked really hard and some who didn't. And, the people who work harder, maybe they make up for the ones who don't. But the ones who don't, maybe they don't stick around as long.
Barney, is it industry standard to do?
He didn't say it represented a year, did he? What was the meaning?
He said it would guarantee each person a 2% pay increase per year.
Per year.
Right.
I mean years of tenure though, right? That's not my understanding. If someone's got 12 years of experience, you hire them in at 12? I thought he said you need to make a decision based upon the talents the talents presented that he brings to the job, and then appropriately place them somewhere on the scale. We'll do this. I'll drop Mayor.
Right.
Can you drop an email to Cody and have him clarify what each step means? Is it based on year, or is it just a 2% flow of where you think someone should be on the scale, and then you move 2% per year from there? Just so we're all on the same page and we have the right information.
He answered that question for me. He said 90% take a budget forget his exact term, it was a budgeted approach. So they look at what I'm asking for, what would it cost us to move people to the right scale based on their years of service. Now, the question would be, would we put someone on that scale based upon their years of service to this town, or would it be in that career field? So like we have police officers, we typically do not hire a police officer with 0 years of experience. It's usually somebody with 10, 20 plus years of experience. So as a town, and this is a separate question from what I'm asking on the current employees, but when somebody new comes in, we'd have to make a decision. Do we put them in a pay plan based upon how many years of service they bring to the job, or do we start them out at step one for Madisonville? And I think that's worth discussing as well.
Yeah, I think he brought that up, that step one is meant for your absolute entry level, 0 experience, right? Doesn't mean it has 1 year's experience. But I would there again, right back to whatever each one of us do outside of here for a living. When we go to apply for a job, our pay is not negotiated based upon the year's experience we have necessarily, so the skill set that we bring to the job. So I don't want to hamper someone because of their years of experience. They shouldn't be held back if they're a positive employee who can do more for us. There again, I don't think we should reward people who do the absolute minimum either, right? So I just want to be sure that we figure out what his scale means and we place people appropriately, which I think that's going to go back to, I'm pointing to Barney because that's who I work specifically with, to the department heads to tell us, give us their feedback on each of their people so we can put them on the sliding scale and figure out where they should be. Yeah, that's, I think, what we're looking for.
Well, I think that's built into this pay plan for most of the positions that we have, because there's multiple levels of equipment operator, and there are multiple levels of the utility workers, and there's even 3 levels of police. We've got a patrolman, a lieutenant, and the chief. So even on the police side, there are some levels. Maybe we ought to have a sergeant in there somewhere as well, or corporal or something like that.
No.
Well, I wanted to ask Barney, because I think the police are slightly different than what we're seeing for like the maintenance, right, where they're having different levels. We've got a big lump of patrolmen. As an officer, in your experience, do you feel like it's standard, like industry standard, for pay scale increases to be based on just simply years of service or tenure? Or is it more based on you've gotten these certificates, you've done these things to earn more pay? How is it usually laid out in departments outside of ours?
It depends on which department you go to. Obviously, just like the maintenance of them, law enforcement has a certain amount of mandates they have to be certified and everything else you can get. Some departments actually pay more just to get to stick with SWAT, bond, dial, or your specialty division. We don't have that. We have 4 patrolmen and 2 other people.
Okay.
We have, like I said, 4 patrolmen, Mike and I. So, the biggest challenge we have here, I find, we got 1 person on shift. And that is challenging. Sometimes at nighttime primarily, Mike and I work, or we rotate the shifts or whatever it is. Sometimes we got 2 people up to 7, 8, 9 o'clock at night. But that's our greatest challenge here. It's not just here, everybody's got moments of outside. But no, to answer the question, I guess to get back to it, each department looks at it differently. Everybody wants the most experienced people you can have. Of course, you got people with 20, 25 years doing the job, they just help. Then you got those that's got 3 or 4 years that's go good. So you've got to weed them out individually.
So there really is no standard across police departments of, you can go anywhere and expect with this many years of experience, this is where you should be. Am I correct?
Yes, but in reality, sometimes it's obviously not the process. But you want to get the most experienced people you got, all the working people. Okay, with your law enforcement way that. The law enforcement, more specifically, you want to look at the history. Do they have a history of a lot of complaints related to certain individuals, certain activities?
Am I right? The scale that you have today with the police department, you can hire somebody in at $18 an hour if they're just brand new when they walk in the door, or you can go all the way up to $21.60 an hour.
Yeah.
So it is a step plan there, and it gives you freedom to hire someone in depending on their experience at the $21.60.
If you hire somebody off the street, within a year you have to be pro-certified. We're pro-certified classes 14, 15 weeks.
Right.
I don't like to do that. No small department like to do it, because 80, 90% of them are going to move on in a year or two, so long. You know, one of the challenges we see here, and it's not a criticism of anybody, is our top pay is still somewhat a lot lower than a lot of people either starting or working their way up to. So, we adjusted the scale a while back, which was a good scale for the people, but I got people hiring on that's got more years than the people that's already been here, and they're making more money than the people that's been here 10, 15 years.
Okay.
So that's a challenge to
And-
try to get people to come in as experienced.
Thank you.
Okay, and again, I'll just give you my opinion here on this, on this step program that's been presented tonight. Our payroll has obviously proven out that we're above the minimum of the not at the max, but we're above the minimum of the pay scales in the area. We've also not only given a 5% raise to all employees, all full-time employees, and a 2% raise to part-time employees this past year. So in addition to that, there's been an evaluation with the department heads, and some people have gotten more than others on the police department, on the maintenance department, and also in our administration. So the department heads have had input for people's pay scale in the past, and I would say that the STEP program, if adopted and when adopted, and certainly I hope we do, would go into effect with a minimum of 2%. But then certainly if someone is evaluated by their department head doing more and being a better employee, that raise could be considered. But a step program, listen, where we're at today, I think we're fairly compensated. And then put the step program in so that people know that this is the minimum amount that they're going to receive. And that's just a thought there. Yes, ma'am.
Wait a minute. Come up forward. All right. Okay. The problem I have with what I'm hearing is that, okay, this one is going to get this one's going to get that. If I hadn't had the dog in 2022, I would not be standing here, because we have one police officer per shift. At night is not enough. And at 9 o'clock at night, I had an individual caller with its headlights on me, and the only reason that it didn't come out of that automobile is I had a 90-pound dog on my front porch, and they were afraid to do so. But as soon as I said, I'm calling the cops, that car took off like a bat out of hell. But it sat there for 15, 20 minutes while I unloaded groceries at 9 o'clock at night. So if it happens to me, think about the lady in Mandeville in the Woodward subdivision that was followed home from Walmart and shot to death in front of her 4 young children. And how long did it take the sheriff's department? A couple of years to find the individuals, because it was a random act. The same thing would have been, no one would have ever found out what happened to me, because there was nobody else around. And when I called, it had to be a sheriff's office, and that sheriff's office came. This young man, I know, was flying low, but it still took him 15 minutes to get there. He looked around for the automobile that looked like every other automobile. You need more than one person at night. You need a backup system. My dad did the police retirement system for the state of Louisiana. He was the chief of police in Morgan City for several years when it was 24/7. He made sure everybody was as professional as certified, everything was there, and paid the way they should be paid. And he made sure they had backup. And that's what you need here, because you've got multi-million-dollar properties. You've got a high population who think they are safe, and you're not. And you have multi-million-dollar properties that you better take care of.
Thank you. Tim, would you clarify what you want me to have, just for Deidre, so she can, Cody, answer?
Just explain what the steps mean.
All right, got some, okay. Any other further discussion, or do we move on? Good, we move on. Next thing on the agenda is a public communication proposal. Samantha, would you come up? We've had requests in the past to have someone do some public communications for us, and so I met with Samantha. She's in the business, and she's making a proposal to the council.
Hi. Good evening. Well, this is a proposal, but it's also just a draft. And one of the reasons why I wanted to come before the committee tonight is to not only let you know where we are so far with it, but also to get any comments or questions that you might have that I might want to incorporate in the final plan, and then I can present that at one of the council meetings once it's complete. I've heard from Mayor June, and I've done my own observations and research, and so what we're going to do first is let everybody know, for the record, I did give the council several documents, the social media communications management proposal. There is a social media template. There's a brief summary of activities and things that we already have been doing in terms of social media and event planning. And also, there is just a little bit about myself. And most of you know me, but I won't go too much into about me, except for how important it is for the record and also as it relates to the proposal. As Jean said, I do have my own company now. I've been a seasoned communications professional for a long time. I've worked in the public sector for over 25 years, having served the public and state government up until 2016 when I went into the private sector. Once I went into the private sector and saw what life was like in that world, I and was elected to serve for the utility company with the EOC, be the liaison between the Public Service Commission and the utility company. I saw firsthand how important it is to have a comprehensive public communication strategy in place, and for local government to also be on the ball when it comes to emergency communications. What I know now is that Madisonville is wanting to have a designated, dedicated public information officer. They want to expand the town's communications capabilities. They want to ensure consistent strategic communication that supports town growth and economic development. So the following strategy is just a framework based on my conversations with the mayor, what I've heard so far, and my own observations. Nothing is set in stone here, as it can change at any time at the town's discretion or as needed to accomplish desired results. I also wanted to include that the town events, and you'll find soon why I'm saying this and how it will make sense. I want to include the town events in this plan because since 2007 and also again in 2012, we created Facebook pages for two of the town events that we've been having for a long, long time. Madisonville has an Instagram and Facebook account. We also have, and not currently, now we have a YouTube channel that hosts the town meetings. It's really important to consider that the events are a part of the communication strategy for the town because the number of volunteer hours that our committee has put into planning these events and the number of hours it has taken to manage and maintain the social media pages has already created a solid foundation for the town online. I mean, we all know that if you're not posting on Facebook or spending any time on your social media pages, you get very little attention when you finally do. So that means combining those efforts with this current plan not only benefits the town tremendously in terms of dollars and according to the algorithms, but it also gives the town new assets that it didn't have before. So I currently own the Facebook pages and the Instagram pages, but that would, of course, become town assets. And when it's all said and done, it does belong to the town. It's a part of our volunteer effort. But Madisonville has become a very sophisticated area to be in, not only to work, live, and play here, but also to hear about. You know, we're one of the most talked about municipalities in the entire state. And not to mention the tourism and recreation that's about to take place once we open up the lighthouse, and you know, just use your imagination. We are a metropolis. We are the little New Orleans of St. Tammany Parish in Louisiana. That being said, here's where I know our gaps are, and this is based on my research. We lack an SMS text alert system for town residents. We lack a regular newsletter to be distributed to the residents on a monthly basis, consistent social media management and audience building, which is very important, crisis communication protocols, event marketing through town-owned assets and online channels. So that kind of sums up everything that I just said and where we go forward from here. Mayor Jean was very passionate about making sure that we were able to use our SMS resources to notify residents, especially in times of emergency or not just for utilities. Now, how do we go about doing that? Well, the core responsibilities of this particular proposal, the person will have to have consistent management of Facebook, Instagram, and newsletter, and YouTube, content creation, scheduling, and community engagement, social media strategy development and audience building, website content management and updates in collaboration with Jericho, the web host, and website creator. Online sign-up forms to collect SMS and newsletter preferences from interested town residents, businesses, and those that are outside of the town. This can also be considered a huge effort in terms of how it affects our public records requests and gathering that information for that data. Streamlining and integrating the event marketing and social media channels as added town assets to enhance audience building and event initiatives. I already mentioned that, but here's where it's huge. After studying and researching the actual audience on the town's Facebook page, we have 4,000 plus followers. Only 20 to 30 typically will respond or comment, and that's over the past year. It's the usual suspects, and so they are all the same people. The algorithms have since changed as of July in 2024 and again in 2025. Google Analytics could not even give me an accurate number of, and I did a SEMrush audit on the website, and it was 5 out of 100 poor online presence. I didn't bring that because to print the form, you have to actually be a pro. It's a very expensive solution, but we need it. But I just did a free audit, and it determined that we don't exist online pretty much. Now, where does that leave us in terms of public safety, and how do we solve this? The first thing that I believe needs to happen is we need to understand that a proposal for communications and social media management does not mean that we want to become famous on Facebook or YouTube. What it means is we need to instill public trust, regain public trust, show the public that we're transparent, we're being held accountable for whatever our response effort is in terms of that messaging on any of the platforms. Integrating all of those platforms into one system with our CRM that we currently have is necessary to ensure that all of our data is accurate. All of our customer relations management system that we currently have, is it going to be what we need to use to put forth those messages? It's not. The main reason is because utility customers, they don't live inside of the town, so we definitely need to make sure that those customers that have not signed up for SMS, as they signed up for utilities, have the opportunity to do so. If they're not on Facebook and they don't see a sign-up form online to do so, how else are they going to know how to let us know, how to be notified. First and foremost, I think we need a door-to-door campaign, and that effort can take a few hours knocking on doors. If they're not home, we leave a survey already printed for them to fill out and mail in. It's extremely important, according to SMS text messaging laws and regulations put forth by the FCC, but also in the state of Louisiana, you have to have permission to send a text. If we have folks that live here that don't necessarily have a Facebook account or never go to the website, they don't even know if they want that or not. They may not realize they want it until they are asked. The fact that we go door to door and ask them personally shows that we're going the extra mile, and that builds public trust and transparency like no other way can. And I think that's the first step. Once we gather the information, which can either be left by paper on their front door or in person, and we bring that paper back, we can also have a sign-up form on Facebook, sign-up form on the website. However, there's multiple ways of doing it. Giving everyone the avenue and the opportunity to sign up. We give it a certain time frame where we officially announce we're going to launch on a certain date. That first phase will take about a month. I'll also need to come in, or whoever is going to do this will come into the office and have to learn the resources that we currently have. What program, who's the manufacturer? Is there a learning curve in order to integrate all of those channels? Integrating your Facebook, YouTube with the website also allows us to monitor traffic. We can see if our efforts are working. We can monitor and maintain, or we can tweak here and there. But as long as we see the audience building and it's from residents that actually live here in town, we know it's working. At the very, very end of, right before we launch the campaign, we also need to make sure that we do press release writing and distribution. We need to put it out in print. Print is not lost. Media interview coordination with spokesperson duties, that person will coordinate with media so that we have the news stations online with what we're doing, that they can make announcements. Also, WDL Radio in the morning, already have those media contacts, so that wouldn't be an issue. Also attending the meetings and announcing that at the town council meetings. Technical requirements and tools, that's another thing. We need to make sure that we have the technical requirements necessary to implement a plan and be able to maintain it properly. Currently, I understand that we do have an SMS system. You can sign up for that when you sign up for your utilities. I just cannot, it's only a general thing that I'm saying. I cannot speak on that right now because I haven't seen it and I haven't had a chance to really dig into it and investigate. But I can do that and will, and then have better answers later for that. So after the door-to-door campaign takes place and we have every single person that currently lives in that residence. Now keep in mind, I do want to mention too, just because they live there doesn't mean that they own the property or that they pay the utility bill. So what we have on our records may not match who actually lives there. If there's an emergency, we need to be able to get in touch with that resident. And also the property owner. The property owner may have decided after signing up for utilities, I'm going to leave the house and rent it out. So now it's somebody new. It's up to them to update their own records, but at least we can make an effort to get a base foundation with solid information that is the exact audience we need to reach. Otherwise, we're just guessing and depending on them to get the word in places that we're not advertising it. So where is this going to lead us in terms of success? We'll know after 6 months. Producing measurable results is easily done these days. I'm a search engine optimization expert, and I've been studying that for a long time. I produce data analytics daily. That is, the scientific method is the only way to ensure that taxpayer dollars were properly spent. And I think that after 6 months, people will see that it was well spent, and where we go from there, we'll determine at that point in time. But just taking the framework, the bare bones that we have now, putting all the nuts and bolts together and building and implementing some sort of strategy to accomplish monthly newsletter, SMS text messaging, and building our audience online, I think is going to take us very, very far. And so I'd love to hear what y'all want to offer towards that. I can, answer any questions that you have, and
Any questions?
Sammy, it sounds like a monumental task you're willing to take on. During catastrophes like Ida, would you be available to send SMS texts out to the residents, letting them know where the debris people are coming through, or gas lines are ruptured, power people are coming through? You would help get them educated, up to date, real time.
everything's in real time. Besides the scheduled posts, the content that we create ahead of time, with my knowledge of what it takes to be a public servant, everything's in real time. There's 24/7 opportunity. And that is, yes, the answer is yes. And I think that should be a part of this position in any municipality, is that you're on standby no matter what.
I like it. I think it would work well. I'd be willing to give it a try.
I did get a chance to speak with Sandy before this meeting. When I saw that she was on the agenda, I made sure to have a phone call with her and just understand, because it's kind of caught me off guard. I didn't know that we were reaching out to people and asking for a position like this to be filled. I have been in favor of us looking at opening some sort of position, whether it be part-time or full-time, where someone is in charge of specifically communication, managing more of the technological side of what the town needs as far as the website and whatnot, because I don't feel like, I don't think that should be on your plate, Deidre. I think that those things should be on someone's plate that has those special skills. And I would very much, well, one, I think several times in here, in your package that you provided, because we don't have a text messaging system. We do. And it's integrated, isn't that correct, that it's integrated?
It's integrated in our billing system, and customers just have to go in and select whether they want it or not.
But it's limited, correct, that it can only have one phone number per address?
Correct.
Okay. Have we ever looked at another text messaging service outside of being connected with the billing service? Does anybody know?
We do have one currently, but it costs so much per character, and we have used it, but it's a significant cost. So I don't know if there's others out there. This one was already in place.
When people sign up on the website, where does that go? That goes to that extra cost per character?
No, the one I'm talking about, they sign up on the website, they can sign up, that's the one for the outside the billing system.
Okay.
And the other one they sign up is within the billing system itself.
Okay. So when I produced a sample newsletter for Mayor, was it 3 weeks ago or 4 weeks ago? I used MailChimp for most of my newsletters, and that does offer the SMS text messaging feature as well. So that would integrate well with that. And I know it does integrate with most CRMs, and it did mention something about municipality or governmental management systems. So I have no doubt that we can get that to work somehow at a very minimal cost. I need to look in to see exactly which system and the technical aspect of how to set up sending. I just don't understand the per character thing, because you can go through so many other companies that don't pay by character.
Right, typically it's a volume of how many people that you're texting.
So there may just be another window that we need to open up with that same company, and where they have a better plan for that type of messaging. This might just be a certain type of messaging that I'm not understanding it, but again, I can't speak on it until I see it further. But MailChimp offered a very reasonable monthly cost, and as you can see in the plan that I did submit, I do subscribe to those services, and so that would be a part of the end cost for the whole contract, for the whole 6-month contract. So MailChimp is it's just a platform that allows you to send out email messaging, and it's grown a great deal, so it offers a lot more in terms of solutions for your business. and one of them is SMS text messaging.
It's email marketing and text messaging.
It's email marketing, and they do some other things too, but that would be what we would use for our monthly newsletter.
I guess the thing I would be most concerned with seeing accomplished is, as far as on social media reaching the masses, that offers zero interest to me. I think the overwhelming majority of people in this town are not looking for a flood of people every day in town, right? Everyone talks about the charm and the quaintness and the quietness, but the thing I think that you can bring to the table, I'm hoping you can bring to the table and explain to us how you're going to do it, is how do we timely and effectively communicate the information to our residents? And I think the problem we're going to run into, I know Lewis spit out some stats earlier. Do you have anything on the demographics? I'll be curious to know what's the average age, right, of our resident.
40 to 60.
I'm thinking of my mother right now. You shoot her a text, I wish you luck getting it to her.
That's the purpose of the...
Right? I mean,
right. And that's the purpose of the...
But how do we reach all the demographics in our town when we have a crisis or anything that's going on? Kyle's going to do the next flushing, which could potentially lead to a water boil. How do we get that to everybody that needs to get it, and we ensure we get it there timely?
It will be their choice. That's the purpose of the door-to-door campaign, is to ask them, how would you prefer to be contacted? So we have a survey that we hand them, and it'll have all of these options. You can sign up for SMS. Do you want to be notified in your email? Do you want us to call you? That will determine the best way to notify each and every person. It's not going to be perfect at first, but it will rule out the majority of the deficiencies that we have right now in terms of getting in contact with residents. Because we will have most people have a cell phone. Some people have a regular phone. Some people still use old-fashioned voicemail. That's all they want, is just a quick call and leave me a voicemail. Some people would prefer, they just check Facebook all the time. They don't want you messaging them. They don't want you emailing them. Everyone has their own preference. We can't please everyone, but it's a start. And from a data analytics standpoint, it's the only way, in my opinion, to firmly and 100% say we did everything we could to get the exact information from each and every person. And it doesn't take that long, because I've done it before, delivered flyers door to door, a few hours on a Saturday or even a weekday. It doesn't matter. We will accomplish it. We will get to each and every person, make sure that we at least leave something on their door if they're not home, and then follow up with them later. These are all of the ways that we gather data. And this is the best way for Madisonville. It's a small enough town to be able to do that. If they want us to leave them a voicemail, it'll say, so-and-so on Pine Street only wants voicemail. Those are called audiences. We'll segment it into certain audiences in the database, and that way we know this list over here wants text messaging, this list over here, and so you just create those lists as you input the data. And at the very end of the entire plan, we should have 90% at least residents on some sort of notification schedule, whether it's getting a newsletter or they want to be notified real time, and how do they want to be notified. Those are the top 3 most important pieces of information that we have to have in order to implement any communications plan. That's first and foremost. And that's the first week after we decide we're going to go ahead and launch this. Within the first week, we'll have that information. And then we do our follow-ups in the next few weeks, and as we start checking people off the list, we'll get down to some people we're just never going to be able to get in touch with, and they just don't care. But that's very few. The majority of people that I know that are living in Madisonville, they want to be contacted. So we'll make sure that we figure out a way to contact them if they don't send anything in. But the beautiful part about it is it's their choice. They select it. And they don't have to go to the website to do it. They can show up at a town council meeting and here's the forms on the table. They can just take that home. Or they're on Facebook one day and a little form pops up. And they can, oh, I forgot to do that. They can fill it out. We'll remind them in various ways, but there's multiple channels to launch this. And also, I think the YouTube, having that as an outlet now, that's perfect for audience building. It gives people a chance to listen to the meetings, And during that, on the YouTube channel itself, we can implement some kind of a pop-up or a sign-up form, or even just a blurb to remind them that they need to sign up, how they want to be communicated with. How do they want us to communicate with them? And for what purpose?
Council, what I'd like to suggest is that you've heard a proposal, you know, if there's something different that we want to happen, or we want a person in this field to do, I'd ask you to give some feedback to me. Nothing's been offered before. What's only been offered is our platform, Samantha platform, to come to the council meeting to give you all, make you aware that we are in negotiations. Nothing's been decided. No contract's been signed. So if there's more, or if there's something that's left out of her proposal that you would like to see in it, or if there's some clarification that you need, is this the right direction that we want to go in? If it's not, certainly, we just need to make a decision and try to move forward.
Just to be clear, this proposal is based on a contract basis, not as an employee. Am I correct? Okay, thank you.
And it is a 6-month contract. I know there was some discussion about a possible public information officer, and I believe that's what, but with discussions with Gina at the very beginning, Mayor said, we're looking to investigate this. Nothing was proposed or anything. It was just an idea. And so I think the public information officer position would extend out after the contract. With the public information officer, you're usually not going to find someone who also handles the technical data analytics and implementation part of a communications plan. They don't create that. Or if they create it, you hire other experts to come in and actually implement the plan who are tech savvy.
Okay.
But what this would also be is a way to incorporate our events that we currently plan. And right now, I know that y'all have an events. The audience doesn't have that. But what it is, it's a timeline of what usually happens during the year in order to make sure that the Christmas parade is put on safely, that we have our Grand Madisonville events. Now we have a lighted boat parade. Now we also have a tree lighting on the Saturday after Thanksgiving. And we were soon to announce that at the town council meeting. There are 3 events all in a row. The planning for that over a 6-month period is already a 20-hour plus job. It's exceeded past a volunteer position. It has become now expected, and it should be a position of the town. So that's for a future discussion, but that's why you're seeing all of that in the information, is because that was a part of the initial talk. But after doing the research, I knew right away, this is a totally separate thing. So this contract is just for, and this proposal is only for getting us to a place where we can implement, that proposal, that plan.
Any of you have any additional questions right now?
I'm trying to figure out your proposal. So, Sammy, I know you've been doing a lot of free work for the town for many years. You've never been paid for any of that, have you?
No, we have a committee that has been working,
Yeah, thanks for doing that. And, but I'm looking at your proposal here, so it appears to me, as you're here appearing before the council tonight, to propose that we enter into a contract for 6 months for a communications expert, and you're offering yourself to be that person, right?
Right.
All right, and as I look through your proposal, I see 20 hours a week here, 30 or 40 hours a week there, and then there's a total of $1,000 on the last page. Is that per week or per month?
That's per month. That was the initial, because I'm also a steward of public funds, I realized that this is taxpayer dollars, and so that was what I offered as an estimate to build from, or the council needs to decide how that will eventually play out, whether it's one lump sum or depending on, but that was just a guideline to let Mayor know this is what I would be willing to do. It's probably going to be an average of 20 hours plus a week, but that's on top of the already 20 plus hours. So that was the reason for including all of the events as I'm preparing to gear up for the events, I'm also posting on social media already. I'm already doing the data analytics studies on that. I'm already studying the audience of Madisonville. I'm already looking to see, what the success rate, so I can report to Chief, what the turnout's going to look like, so he can provide proper safety for the events. And so now we have 3 events. It's become a full-time job.
Are you proposing an hourly rate of reimbursement or just $1,000 per month flat fee for the next 6 months?
$1,000 per hour, Louis.
Really? What?
I'm teasing.
I don't know.
You can just disregard, this was the original framework that I came up with when we had our first meeting, and then I since reconstructed an agreement, but realized I hadn't had a chance to talk to you guys yet, so I just put that to the side. Kind of going back to the drawing board on that. First, we need to see when we want to start. We need to figure out when we want to do this. How much can the town afford? What's in the budget currently? Do we need to wait until next year? How are we going to properly do this? Because if you hire a company to come in and make a proposal, they're going to give you a bottom line of $5,000
But
easily.
To answer his question, it is $1,000 a month.
That's what my initial proposal was, yes.
And it likely all just depends on what we need based on us getting this information, is what you're trying to say.
Correct.
Yeah.
It's a framework, it's a number to work around. Now, it could be that the town decides there's a grant that they could apply for and just pay it all in one lump sum. It pays for my time, but it's also a very minimal amount. And if there's any way to start working through those numbers now, so we can at least figure out when we want to launch this or when we want to start, we need to also have that as well. Because that's very important. We can say tomorrow, that changes the way we strategize. If we say wait until January 1st, then we get past the events and then we start implementing this or gathering the information January 1st. It's really all in where you guys are, and you have to let me know.
It's certainly, you're here just to give this proposal, nothing more.
They need
We're
to be
going to have to
informed.
decide and then get
Yeah.
back with you.
That's no decision tonight. It's too early for that, but y'all needed to be informed, and getting all the same people in the room together at one time is even better. But we can meet outside of today, and there might be something new that comes up you want to ask about, so just call me anytime.
Okay. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Sammy, I need a copy of that, if you don't mind.
Sure. The,
You gave me these two right here, but I think I'm missing something.
that was the second one.
Here. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Sammy.
Thank you, Sammy.
Thank you.
Next section is the Operations and Maintenance Committee members, Councilman Ogle, Councilman Dennis. First thing on the agenda is lighting ordinance. Lewis, Councilman Ogle, had sent in some information today for the lighting ordinance. Does anybody else have anything that they want to submit so that Bruce can work toward that, putting that ordinance together?
I can get something to you, Bruce, maybe late this week or early next week.
Well, I think the initial question I thought was, do you even want one? Do you want a lighting ordinance?
I do.
If we really never had any problems, and except this one guy came up several weeks ago, and
You'd be surprised how many people will mention in passing, hey, this neighbor has this really bright light. How do I handle that? And I'll hear them like, just talk to your neighbor. But at the same time, it's easier to enforce since this was brought up, I've had at least 3 people mention the light situation. So I think it's more often, and I think people just don't like to complain. That's what I think is really going on.
okay, well, you have a really unusual situation here because we have a very compact geographic area with both businesses and residential. And I looked at Lewis's, first draft, and I'm just wondering how he's going to implement that. How are you going to enforce it? A lot of subjective stuff involved.
Well, that is interesting that you said that. I made that question because I don't know that anyone has actually gone, the one complaint we got, we approached that to CLECO. They've changed the direction of the light, and I don't know if that hasn't solved the problem. I don't know that it did, don't know that it didn't. But, if in fact that's a better way to approach it on an individual basis, I don't know. But the one complaint that we had, I'm not sure that it hadn't been addressed and corrected. So, I mean, if there's a will for a lighting ordinance, we need to, Louis, you think there is?
I agree with Kristen. I think my issue is that, you have a 5-foot setback among most properties, which means you're 10 feet from your neighbor in some cases. And if you got a floodlight that's, and I don't think there's much subjective in what I presented at all. I think it's objective. It's either shielded or it's pointed down so that it's on your property. I just took most of it, I took from the Covington ordinance. And I think Al could handle implementing this. The original ordinance we looked at from Covington had candle power and lumens and what type of bulbs to use. I took all that out of there to try and make it as simple as possible.
Well, just to let you know, everyone know, Al's no longer with us, and we're interviewing now for building inspector.
Who's going to do it while he's out?
I'm sorry?
Who's going to do those duties while he's out?
I'm hoping to get someone soon. Keith, Tim, any thoughts on whether we want one or we want to move in that direction?
I like what's in the lighting ordinance for Covington, some of it, not all of it. But there comes a time when, is there a possibility we have just too many ordinances for our small town?
Yeah, you can ordinance yourself and to death, and
Would it not be like ordinancing something that hasn't been brought up as an issue, I would call over ordinancing something. But if you're creating an ordinance for something that you've had multiple people come up for an issue, I wouldn't say that's not, something wrong to do.
that's a decision you got to make.
I've only been on the council for 4 years. This is going into my 5th year. This is the first time that I can remember we had a complaint about a light issue. And it's something simple I think we could handle with our neighbors possibly. Tim, you're on the council for a lot longer than me. Do you remember if ever somebody complained about the lights?
No. If y'all want to write an ordinance, there's, to quote our previous mayor, we're surrounded by gated communities that tell you what you can do with your property 24/7. But hey, there may be someone next week or next month or next year that has a neighbor with an obnoxious light, and we have a way of going and enforcing it. If that's what we want to do, go for it. I'm one of 4 up here. I'm not gonna dispute it. But at some point, I just think every time someone walks through the door, we're constantly writing rules, and we're going to be a community of nothing but rules. And I think the beauty of living in this town is the neighborhoods that we have, the neighbors we have, the community we have. But yeah, that's changing quickly. As we can see, there's very few quote-unquote homegrowns left. So I guess you got to find a way to police the ones that want to come in here and do things their way. I'm indifferent to it. I can care less.
Thank you.
Councilman Dennis, I will tell you, several years ago, we had one with one of our restaurants, and a homeowner complained on the light shining through their rear windows. And the restaurant was polite enough, I guess, for lack of a better word, where it was change direction of light, they did do it.
Yeah, they actively went and corrected the lighting and There hadn't been a complaint
I
since.
mean, with a but, flip side of it is, if it would not, if they would have said no, we wouldn't have had much to go. I'm not pro or con, I'm just telling you that that particular restaurant conceded what we asked them to do. If we wouldn't have had it, they would have said no. Yeah, but try to go to the next step.
I guess where my disgust comes from is it's a shame that these are the things we have to consume ourselves with, right? And I understand if you're the person that has that problem, it stinks. But it's a shame to see our community coming to this. You know, looking at the people in this room that's been here for generations, I can't fathom your neighbor telling your mother 30 years ago, I ain't moving that light. It's unfortunate to see that that's where this town's going. It's, and I feel it's our job to find a way to put up a fence around this place and protect it.
So is there a desire to move forward or not with this?
I motion to table it.
Table it? Everyone in agreement with that?
Yeah, I second.
Okay. Next thing on the agenda is the sign ordinance. Sign, Mr. Danner, you want to cover that?
Come on. Bill, at the last meeting, we talked about, the last meeting, we talked about the possibility of having more than one occupant to a building. In other words, more than one, I think it's 50 square feet with that one. And so I got some language together, and I'll read it if you want, to determine whether you want to go in this direction. But whatever it is, I have to amend what I have to incorporate or not to incorporate. So what we have, I don't know, we have 7, 8, 9 zoning designations. I think we have 3 that are residential, I'm not sure. The residential was easy, but because we only allow temporary signs as defined, that's easy. But all of the other zoning designations are, commercial signs and things of that nature, so I have to be very careful as to how I incorporate the temporary signs into that type of thing. So anyway, if you want, I can read something to you that would incorporate a maximum sign square footage, okay? You ready for this? Okay. Okay, this section applies to all buildings in which more than one business operates, including multi-tenant commercial buildings, office complexes, and retail centers, where signage is otherwise restricted to a maximum of 50 square feet per building. Okay, that's where multiple businesses occupy a single building subject to a 50 square foot signage limitation. The total sign area permitted for the building shall remain 50 square feet in aggregate, regardless of the number of tenants. The total allowable sign area may be divided among the businesses at the discretion of the property owner or managing agent, provided that 1, no single business may exceed its allocated portion of this total signage, and 2, the cumulative sign area for all businesses shall not exceed the 50 square foot maximum. All signage must comply with existing placement, design, and illumination standards set forth in this ordinance. Where feasible, a unified or coordinated sign plan is encouraged to ensure visual harmony and minimize clutter. And as an alternative to individual exterior signs, a single directory sign listing all businesses when the building may be used. Such a sign shall not exceed 50 square foot maximum, shall be designed to clearly identify each business in a consistent and legible manner, and shall be maintained by the building owner or property manager. So, as you see, I use just a total of 50 square foot. Doesn't matter how many businesses are in there. You can change that, but it gives you a kind of a format, if you will, to make that change. And of course, that would be useful, because if you have a large building with a lot of tenants, 50-foot total square footage is really, it would have to be allocated or made larger in some formula or something.
That sounds good to me, Bruce, thanks.
Yeah, I agree. That's kind of what I expected, so I don't have any problem with that.
Great.
Where do we have right now that's in violation if that was enacted?
Can you give you an example? I have no idea.
Well, let's start, well, I mean, I'm just thinking seriously, let's look at the restaurant, Chipuncta's, and what's the place down below called? Anchor? All right, there's multiple businesses in one property.
The biggest, I guess, it would, the only one that comes to my mind real quick is the billboard on side of Triple Nickel. Not Triple Nickel now, but the one next to it.
Yeah, the cat.
That's exactly what I was thinking,
That's the
yeah.
only one that I'm thinking of.
What about, for now, we've got the pharmacy, we've got the electrician, and we got the pig, right? That's one building technically. What's that going to do to them? I get it, we have a building here in town that's got numerous tenants, and
Right.
by the rules, he can line the street with signs, is what we want to get away from.
Right, we want to avoid that, but how do
So what we
we?
have, right, if we enforce this or we enact this, either something's going to be, I'm curious, I think the pig will probably be the biggest violator, right? What would that signage, 'cause that's one building with 3 businesses, none of them are obnoxious, I have no issue with any of
I
them.
still have one thing to that, okay? Many of those businesses have separate interests, okay? There's only one building that I know of, which is 405 Cedar Street, that only has one entrance, and multiple businesses in it, and multiple signs, okay? And I think that's part of what generated this sign.
Yeah, I'm all in favor of this, but I don't want to take away from establishments that we already have that may, we just got to be careful of that, right? We enforce we put this in the law next month, hypothetically, right? What do we do with the ones that are not creating the?
You got to grandfather them in. You got to grandfather them in, probably, but there's more than that, just one business. Right on Pine Street, across the street, almost across the street from the mayor's house. That's one building, they have multiple businesses in there.
Right.
Across the street from his house.
So, and, no, but
Bill Herron?
that is individual entrances, okay? It's one
No,
building.
it's one entrance.
Yes, it's directly across from,
Yeah,
It's one entrance.
yeah. Two front doors.
In fact, they have a for rent sign out there now, okay?
Yeah, they do. Okay.
Oh,
I'm getting hilarious.
yeah, I know.
So what would you do, really, what would you do if they had across from the street from you, okay? They had, how many businesses? 4 or 5?
I don't know how many is
They had
that.
4 50-foot signs there. I mean, is that acceptable?
Well,
Well, for instance, the Piggly Wiggly, nobody has a problem with their sign, right? How does that fall into our guidelines as they stand? I have no idea.
Brad just said it to us, let's be the right ideas.
Yeah, thank you.
Maybe you incorporate the number of entrances, I like that idea. Because, I mean, think of the Piggly Wiggly and all those businesses. I mean,
I think we all know what we're trying to accomplish here.
Yeah.
We don't want to also at the same time jeopardize
Agreed.
good in-town appointments that we already have, right?
Agreed.
Trying to prevent, do violate, I'm not pronouncing it. That was just my own thought. I like the overall theme of it, I'm so on board. But I just don't want to do damage to someone who thinks a falling apartment in town, this apartment in town, right now, we don't have to think about it.
Yeah, you can always say that, hey, when they do a certain rehab, remodel to the Piggly Wiggly, that old store, a certain percent, 50% remodel, whatever, at that time, they would become compliant with the sign. You can do that. If that, today you have to change the signs up, but just, you can write it into the ordinance,
Right, but we still don't want the pig and the pharmacy and whatever the businesses in between to all have to share a sign either. That doesn't seem reasonable at that location.
Building, but maybe a sign out.
Well, right, so those are all attached to the building? Are we delineating that?
Nope, we aren't.
I think you don't want to be accused of showing favoritism. I think what you do for one, you should do for all, and
You gotta find a way to craft it
Yeah,
that makes sense,
exactly.
and it meets the needs of, or addresses the concerns that we have, or the potential of the issue. We gotta find So I'll just go through just a draft, send it to us.
I'll have Deidre send this out tomorrow to everybody, but, I mean, you can also think about, well, you know, really, what you're talking about is lots, okay? And because you can build, theoretically, a building on each lot or whatever, okay? And they would have separate entrance. So, for instance, the Piggly Wiggly, how many lots is that on? A lot, okay? And so,
We only own one.
what?
It's probably only on one lot, just a large
Okay, well,
lot.
maybe then you delineate it out by square footage of the lot or something, okay? So as to consider the size of the lot, okay, as part of the calculation, whether or not that 50-foot sign should be
Maybe the size of the
larger.
business space.
But it should never be, no one sign should ever be more than 50 square feet, okay? That would be set. And then if they want to do, like they have it where my office is, 4 or 5 seater, I think you did an excellent job. We have fairly small signs. I mean, it's a nice building. You know. So I'm going to, let me send it out and you all make comments and get them back with me, okay?
So am I hearing Bruce that more about Cedar Street, I mean, this ordinance would be with them, this ordinance, because it's not exceeding 50 square feet in total, in aggregate?
No, I really don't know what the total square footage, you know, of all the signs there.
What I'm asking is, it's okay to have multiple signs, or is it just one sign?
Oh, no, you can have multiple signs, I believe, as long as the total amount would not be more than 50 square feet. Oh, change, yeah. You can have multiple signs as long as the total is not more than 50 square feet. That's what this says.
Okay.
Yeah, just, we'll send it out, certainly, now that we're recognizing there are other businesses and situations that could be affected by this. Yes?
Can a residential home have a commercial sign?
No.
Because that midwife, she has a sign, doesn't she have a sign up on her little house?
She did at one point. I know where you're talking about, right on Main Street, and it was more like a political size sign. I mean,
And she may be able to, I mean, she's got a home business. She's got a home business, so.
our home businesses allowed to do that? I have no idea.
Yes, you have a residential district that allows home businesses, correct?
All of our residential.
Then why can't the Airbnbs, we can't have a sign for the Airbnb though? Why is that?
I thought a home, I hate to interrupt you, but I thought home occupation, I own a house in CPA, and I have 20% of my house is for my CPA business. As I read it, I cannot put a sign up there.
That may be, we just have to look at that. Maybe it does exist that way in a residential area.
In that understanding, does that also apply to when you have someone who's working on your home and they want to put a sign in your yard to say, hey, I'm the person?
Temporary.
It's temporary, so it's different?
It's a temporary.
Okay.
Absolutely.
That's not permanent, this is a permanent.
To be fair, I think hers is gone. I'm pretty sure, I haven't seen it in the yard.
Last time I walked, it's up on the top.
Oh, it's on the house now.
Yes, it's on
Maybe
the
that's why I
house.
haven't seen it. Okay, yeah.
Yeah,
mm.
go up by there a lot. I'm just asking because I didn't, I thought, but Wayne said that if it was a,
Yes.
If you have a home business, why can't you have a small sign that says your business?
And again, you may be able to, may not be able to. We'll look into that and find out.
That's what I'm saying,
Yeah.
why you're doing all these adjustments,
Absolutely.
makes sense. If I have a home business, if I want to do a design studio and I want it to be by appointment, I don't need a 50-foot sign, but if I have a small
Understand.
2x2 sign that says design studio by appointment, why not?
but we were told that
Okay.
we could use it for the Airbnb, so.
Okay.
That's what I'm saying, it should be, because if you're doing your business and you've been approved for that business, and the town should also approve for you to have a sign stating your business, and it can be a personal size
You're not asking for, a yard sale, yard sign.
We'll look into it and we'll get back to.
I agree with Stacy. It's not allowed, I just looked at the ordinance, it's not allowed, any sign is, other than a real estate like for sale sign or a political
Okay.
sign.
It's a home.
So
It should be a.
there's one has to be regulated. I mean, we gotta address it, so, yeah. What Mr. Dana had read out, he'll send out, or we'll have Deidre send it out tomorrow. Let's consider, look into it, and come back with your wishes next month. Is that good? Next thing is C1 commercial amendments to the gas pumps. Mr. Dana, you have that also.
I finished it, so everybody should have it.
I'm sorry?
I finished it, so everybody should have it.
Well, so there's no, other than the recommendations that were made last time, you're saying all of that's been corrected?
That's right.
What are we limiting it to, Gene, to? I'm curious.
In the C1 commercial district shall not exceed to 3. Each gas station shall be limited to 4 individualized nozzles and hose assemblies which are attached to each dispensing pump and shall be located on a single parcel of land. Each location shall be considered an independent unit for zoning and licensing purposes, and multiple locations on a single parcel or contiguous parcels shall be considered a single location with regards to the limit. The canopy over each fueling position shall not exceed 20 feet in height. All gas stations must install appropriate safe ingress and egress, adequate signage, and pedestrian walkways where necessary, subject to the town's planning and zoning department and building permit office. Violations of this ordinance shall be subject to penalties, basic stuff, yeah. So
Is this, in my opinion, I would think, is this ready to go to council meeting?
I think so, yes.
Okay, it'll be on the agenda for a vote or recommendation next month. Next thing on the agenda is a camping ordinance. That was pretty much agreed to last month, but just want to follow up on this. There's no additional information that was put on this, is there, Mr. Downer?
Let's see. If you remember, Mayor, we had talked about this last week concerning whether or not we should make any exception relative to camping whatsoever during the day, and I just took all that out. So the pertinent provision is camping is hereby prohibited.
Correct.
All public property within town of Mansfield, except, and this is what I put in there, except as otherwise approved by the town council.
So it goes back to town council approval?
Yes.
Yes, if a request comes in.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's ready to go.
I'm good to go with that. Anybody else?
Everyone else?
I'm good.
Will be on next month's council meeting. Farmers Market is next, Councilman Ogle.
I just wanted to update you that Jamie Williams helped me out on this, and we went out and looked at where and what type of locations we would have available for a farmer's market headquartered at the community center. So we identified at least 13 spots inside, which we would charge more for, some areas on the front lawn, 11, and 47 along the riverfront, to be oriented where people who are attending the market would be walking along the river, and the front of the tent would be facing the river. So that's just where we are. Our group's going to meet in another couple of weeks, and I'll have another update for you after that. Anyone find this layout offensive or have a comment on it?
No, I appreciate the work you've done. Thank you, Louis.
This is just for the south side of the bridge.
Is that in the discussion on that?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Next thing on the agenda is proposal to honor military service.
I sent this out to y'all, so I printed out one if y'all can just pass it down. My printer doesn't go all the way to the edge, but if we were to send this out for professional printing, that's what it would look like. On the cover and I've already talked to Dale, and of course Philip was here last month. It wouldn't be that on the cover, but it would actually be the proof that I should get in the next day or two of the actual banner and what it's going to look like. So it would be the actual banner. I've got an application on the inside to gather information. I've got the rules on there as well, if everybody can just look at it. And if you have any comments, want to change it in some way, we can. But I'm getting closer to being ready to go with that.
Yeah, looks good to me. Okay. Any questions on this?
Are these banners gonna be like on the light posts?
What we're looking to do is put them along the riverfront on those decorative light posts that are up there. There's 15 of them. So if they were just confined to the riverfront, it would be 2 on each pole, so 30 banners that we'd have total available. We started to get other people asking about it, so I don't know how quickly we'd sell out or anything like that, but maybe we'd have a waiting list. We've set the price at $150, which covers the cost of printing the banner plus a portion of the bracket. Now, the bracket would stay up year-round, and the town could put other types of banners on there throughout the year. Over the course of maybe a couple of years, we'd end up paying off the brackets as well.
Will it be limited to residents in town?
I put into, at least initially, that in order to sponsor someone, you have to be a business owner, a resident, or an employee of the town of Madisonville, and we'll see how many we get that way.
So a resident could sponsor someone who does not live in town. Yeah,
Including someone who isn't alive anymore, too.
correct. Okay, thank you very much. Next thing on the agenda is Parks and Recreation. Council members, Councilman Haddix, Councilwoman Faison, is there anything that you...
Just a quick update, since Chris has been working on that connection for the pedestals. There's been some, what happens is there's the hubs or the controllers, whatever you want to refer to them as. We have 4 of them out there, 2 on the north side, 2 on the south side. Each one controls each individual pedestal, right? And they each have a certain number attached to them. He's seeing some of them drop out, and it has to be manually reset. It should not be acting like that. He got an email back today from Schneider Electric that did the panels, essentially, that are in those controllers. And they were like, yeah, that's not supposed to happen. So he's going to have to go out there physically and hook up to it with a laptop and do some testing and see where that lands, and report back to Schneider and say, hey, look, this is what's going on. And hopefully they'll give us a solution that will prevent that from happening.
Okay.
But that's, I don't want to say it's faulty without knowing more. That is a possibility. If it is, we need to get with them and have it resolved. If not, then, hopefully it's a simple fix and we won't have that issue anymore, and we can move on to the next phase of connecting a payment system to what he's built already for managing it.
All right.
Anybody have any questions for me on it? No? Okay.
No other questions there. Next section is Public Safety. Council members, Councilman Dennis, Councilman Bounds, anything on public safety?
No, I just asked everyone for their prayers for Officer Henry. Had a stent put in, and hopefully his recovery is doing well.
And we'll extend that also to you with your surgery tomorrow. Councilman? Yes. Any other business tonight? Motion?
Motion to adjourn.
Motion by Councilwoman Faison, second by Councilman Dennis. All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you very much.
Is that your son?
close the door.